everybody, and welcome back to the tier list. I am Mangan, joined today by Collins.
How you doing, guys? Ready to talk about some absolute sporting icons?
Paddy.
Hello.
Ritson.
Hey.
And no Neil today, unfortunately. Just the four of us.
But I'm back.
Well, you know, have we missed you?
Sorry. I'll leave. It's fine.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, today we are looking at sporting icons. First of all, before we kick off, how have we been doing?
Not bad. You're doing a lot of research.
This has been a very
doing as much.
this has been a very note heavy tier list.
I've absolutely slaved it away this week.
Right, okay, I'm gonna call you out immediately. We found out a couple of hours ago that Neil couldn't make it, but Collins, who thought he wasn't gonna make it, could, and Neil has just given Collins all of his notes.
The match made in heaven, really.
The laziest player in the game. He's Ric Flair, but the opposite. But yeah. Anyway, shall we begin immediately?
Let's go.
Yeah, go on. It's your topic, Dan, so you can start us off.
Yeah. I have chosen 5. I'd say very different sports for this. I want to start with one of my personal favourite sports in darts. I want to talk about Phil Taylor. 16-time world champion. He's won 79 PDC major titles. He was a runner-up for 13 of those in the Worlds, actually. Between 1994 and 2007, he won 11 world championships and was runner-up 3 times. He was in the final for all 14 years. He is probably the best darts player in history. And he's pretty good. He is an icon for that sport.
I'll tell you what. You say 16-time world champion, is that he is pretty good.
Well, that's the thing.
Should I tell you some other stats? 214 professional tournament wins, 85 major titles, 16 world championships, and he dominated darts for 2 decades.
Well, that's the thing about saying this. I was a bit nervous about bringing it up because I thought you were going to slate me for bringing it up because it's just a fat man's game and all that. But it does command a lot of skill. So you know where the treble 20 is?
Yes.
The inside measurement of it is 8 millimeters.
Don't get me wrong; it's not one of those sports that's extremely active, but it's one of the most difficult sports. If you've ever tried to play it, it's extremely difficult. Even at an amateur level. And
you watch it on the telly, and I'll compare it to a couple of other one-player sports. So tennis, in singles competition. No, it's not what you think. Tennis, golf. When they are played, it's in absolute silence. If you make a peep, you're basically kicked out, aren't you? Darts, the crowds are rowdy. There's shouting. There's booing when you're taking your throw. It requires a lot of concentration. Also, the legacy he's left for the game did more than anything legends like Eric Bristow did, because probably the reason that people like Michael Van Gerwen, Gary Anderson, Peter Wright, Adrian Lewis, James Wade as well, people like them are up because they knew they had to be as good, if not better, to actually beat Phil Taylor, because even when he was in his 50s, he was winning championships left and right.
You know what's going to stop him from being as high up as he probably should be?
Yeah, I know.
It's the stuff off the darts field, if that's a thing.
Yeah, no, he was a bit of a bad person. I was going to swear then, but I held my tongue.
No, Neil's not here to mark it down.
I do want to try and keep that going. I don't want content warnings from beyond the grave.
The thing is, we're not just judging these people on sport and ability and achievement. It's about what they did off the pitch. That's what makes you a legend or an icon. And in 2001, indecent assault charge on 2 women.
The thing is, you don't hear about it now, and people forget about what's happened. Like it was an awful thing, but people went quickly to throw it under the rug because, let's be honest, Phil Taylor was the draw. He was the money for the sport.
That's sort of one of the things that kind of also puts him down, though, is yes, he's so much of a legend compared to everyone else in darts, but it's still darts. Like we're talking about with this tier list, sporting icons. So we're talking about sport as a whole. And while no one's going to say that Phil Taylor isn't the icon of darts, darts isn't a sport that comes to mind.
Well,
I don't think we can really. I think that sort of pulls him down as well.
But I think I think if you were like a normal member of the British public, you would probably have a guess who Phil Taylor is.
Yeah, he's the only darts player I know of.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, I'll talk about a couple of these, and I only know them because of their sport. Like, there's a few Americans here that I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for like their particular. If I wouldn't have known much about their sport if it wasn't for them. Like, he is known worldwide, and he's probably like darts is starting to become more of an international thing now. Like, I follow quite a bit of it. Like, they've started going into America now. They do European tours. Like, the European tours are a big thing now. They've started going to Australia. It is becoming a bigger thing, but like you said, like especially when he was playing, it was a British sport other than people like maybe Raymond van Barneveld, who was Dutch, and he was the only big foreign draw.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now you've got your MVGs and stuff, your Wataminers, you've got players in Germany, and so because we say that Phil Taylor helped with that.
Yeah, I think then though it's like if they're only just doing it now when Phil Taylor's out of his prime and is no longer the draw, is it while you can credit him probably getting these foreign players interested in the sport because they've seen how good he is, it still sort of comes down to the fact that the international appeal hasn't come from him. Yeah, if you get me.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. It's I mean, he could still play today. I reckon he could still win titles today. He chose to go out on his own terms, like. But I think he's an excellent player. He is a very good. He is probably the best, and I doubt that anyone will ever beat his record of 16 championships.
Should we put him somewhere then?
I haven't really got to say anything on this.
Sorry, go on then.
At all. But I was basically going to say what Colin said at the start when, we are looking at sports here. And while darts does take a lot of skill, we've all tried it. And God, it is annoying.
Sorry about that. Couple of technical difficulties. Ritson, let's get straight back to you.
Yeah, sorry about that. So anyway, right, what was I saying? Oh,
Phil Taylor.
Yeah. Phil Taylor. I nearly said Phil Mickelson then, but that's for later on. Okay, so Phil Taylor, while he is probably the GOAT of darts, no problems with that. I was basically gonna just agree with what Collins said at first. Is we're looking at a greatest sportsman tier list, and darts is the least physically and athletically challenging sport probably in the world. Therefore, I really do think I couldn't put him high in this list at all. But I do get the effect he's had for darts, the popularity, like the money how big a draw he was in that sport. But yeah, I was just going to agree with Collins because I hadn't been able to say anything.
I'll just clarify. Mine was simply the fact the popularity of darts, nothing on like the capabilities of the players.
Yeah.
Well, no, the thing is, it's not a demanding sport, but technically it's super demanding, and that's what something.
Technically,
yeah, that's what I was trying to say before my my mic turned into the TARDIS. Apparently, is that it is a very skillfully challenging sport, and we have all tried it, and it is really frustrating. I do think that, most sports are skillfully challenging to be a professional at. That's the whole point. You can't just get there with physically. You do need skill. I get that dart, and dart is obviously incredibly heavy on the skill part, but again, I think the physical nature of it, or lack of, does take away from where you can put a darts player on a sporting tier list overall.
Fair. Should we put him somewhere then?
Yeah,
I wanted to put him in the middle, right down the middle, personally.
Role model.
Yes, like you said. I mean, I don't know why you put role model, because that seems to be higher up.
Role model.
Yeah.
A decent assault charge role model.
I mean, where are we going to be putting Conor McGregor?
Lower than role model.
Yeah, I'd say he's decent.
I would agree with decent.
I was gonna say legend. Like, honestly, I think he's an icon of that sport. Like, he is the guy you think of when you think darts.
Yeah,
but because of his assault charge, I've knocked him down a peg.
Well, when you think of the greatest of other sports and what they did for the sport, Phil didn't do that. I know him personally. That's why I only call him Phil.
Go on, man. Where were you going to put him?
I wanted to put him legend, personally, but I think it would have probably have to have been dropped down by, you said, his charges and his lack of...
I say we go decent then, because I cannot put a guy with assault charges in role model.
Who named these ones?
I think role model's a good one.
I
think role model's really like good for like a sporting icon. Let's put him in decent.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
Paddy.
I'll go next.
Sorry.
Richard.
All right.
All right. I'm coming in with my top pick. I'm coming in with my man Roger Federer. Obviously, I'm a big tennis fan. You all know that. You probably all hate it at the same time. But Roger Federer, in any list of greatest athletes or sportsmen ever, male or female, he's always right at the top 5, without a shadow of a doubt, every single time, nailed on. And there's so many reasons for that. I mean, firstly, you have to look at all the records he's accomplished in tennis. He's without a doubt the greatest player of all time, at least for now. We've got Djokovic kind of like coming up. Anyway, I'll just list a few. Most Grand Slam titles were 20, most Grand Slam finals 31, most weeks at world number 1, and most weeks at world number 1 consecutively, where he was there for 5 years. He's won over 100 tournaments, and he's 38, I think, now, which is insane. I mean, most top players retire at about 32, 33, and here he is, 38, 39 next month, I think. And he's still like right at the top of the game.
Well, interesting you say that. As you said, people retire at 32 and that. 38, still world number 4. Incredible.
Yeah. And you know what? He was higher than that last year as well. It's only just lost that ranking. And here's another thing about Federer. In 2016, halfway through, he suffered a bad knee injury. He took the rest of the season off after Wimbledon, so in June or start of July, and everyone thought he's done. He's done at the top. There's no way this guy, I think he was 35 at the time, is going to come back now and win titles. I mean, 2012 was the last time he won a Grand Slam title, so everyone thought, no way. 2017 comes back, first tournament, Australian Open, wins the entire thing, beating Nadal in the final in one of the greatest matches ever. I mean, it was ridiculous to watch. He's defied physics and he's defied age. He's defied just, evolution, really, when you look at what he's achieved. If anyone else wants to jump in before I just wrap up.
Defy evolution.
Well,
I think going against the curve is literally evolution.
Well, yeah.
That's being pedantic now.
Now you're just doing a Collins.
Now, I think my main, for starters, obviously Roger Federer is a massive icon in the tennis world. He's the only tennis player I can ever really recall being in a TV advert in the modern era, which says a lot considering Andy Murray exists.
Andy Roddick.
It doesn't actually. Andy Murray exists.
No, but Andy Roddick, he did that advert where he hit the the ball into the clay court and it stayed in the ground. That was funny.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
but that was because he was just famous for how hard he hit serves.
Yeah, true.
yeah.
But with Roger Federer, the main drawback when I think of the icons, and it's with a few of them, is did he ever really go above the sport? Maybe you obviously as the massive tennis fan can say this, but if you compare some of the people that we're going to talk about later and Phil the Power Taylor, who we've just talked about, did he ever become bigger than tennis?
I mean, I think he was tennis, and he probably still is, really, to an extent. Like everyone who knows the sport of tennis knows Roger Federer, and also it's not if we're just I've only spoke about on court records, but also you have to talk about the man himself. I mean, I don't want to put him in role model, obviously, but if you had to define a role model as a human being and an athlete, you'd pick him because I mean he's basically faultless. He's just a pure gentleman, nicest guy you could ever meet. His interviews are perfect, but he's never boring. He always gives good answers, interesting answers, funny answers, very charismatic. He's just Swiss, really, isn't he? He's just a nice person. But also his charity work as well. He's had this series called Match for Africa, so he's doing a lot of work with other players, for exhibition matches. And I think it was earlier this year they played in front of I think it was 50 or 60,000 people, which was the largest attendance of a tennis match ever. And he's doing a lot of work there. In 2018, he donated approximately $68 million to charity. Now I know he's very rich anyway, but that is a lot of money. I mean, that's more than 99.99% of top athletes will make in a year that he donated. Also, another fun fact is he is the highest paid sportsman annually over the past few years, with huge sponsorship deals coming in from the likes of Nike and now Uniqlo. And he's been in that top 10 Forbes richest sportsman since, I think, 2008, and he's never dropped out of the top 10 since he got in, which just proves how big he is, to tennis, and how much of a draw he is. I mean, he is the sport, basically. When the sport comes to mind, Federer comes to mind.
Well, if I can back you up on the charity stuff, he's a UNICEF ambassador. He's donated to Hurricane Katrina, Haiti, and he's got his own charity that helps young kids with sports in South Africa, because I think his mum is South African, I think.
She is.
And he's also got an honorary doctorate degree in Switzerland for his how he's brought recognition to the city and the country.
Yeah. He's honestly, when I think, if we were just talking on personality wise, I'd probably just put him straight at the top, because he's never had any real controversy, apart from when he was really young. He used to have a bit of a temper, but he completely got rid of that. I mean, he's as cool as you can come across now, across any sport. And it's not just how good he is, it's how he also plays. He plays so elegantly and aesthetic, his footwork, his technique, and the type of shots that he plays are just, I mean, you can't even picture the shots that he hits before he hits them. He's that clever. And he's completely changed the sport with the type of shots and style that he's played.
Mangan, you haven't chimed in?
He is certainly an icon for the sport. Until Djokovic and Nadal came along, really, Federer was the only one I knew.
Still don't know Murray.
No, because that was before then. He was the one that I wanted to see get beat all the time, because he was the best there was, and you always want to see an underdog story, don't you? But he was such an amazing player. He still is. I haven't seen him play recently because I don't really have much to say about this, to be honest with you. He is probably the biggest thing to ever come out of tennis.
True. Obviously, in the past year, he's obviously not played as well as he did in 2017, where he made that insane comeback, won a couple Grand Slam titles, Masters titles. He also At 35, after that 6 months out with a knee injury, I'll just point out he beat Nadal 4 times out of 4 and didn't lose a set to him apart from in the Australian Open meeting. I mean, that's insane to come back at that old after that injury as well. Yeah, and as I said, any list of greatest sportsmen or athletes, he's always, top 5, top 3. Some have him as first, which says a lot.
Should we put him somewhere then?
I think it's pretty obvious where I'm going to put him. I'm going to put him straight at the top.
Yeah, I completely agree. Icon, for sure.
Mangan?
I think legend, because what Collins said earlier on, has he transcended the sport itself? It's a bit similar to Phil Taylor. He is certainly the best, but
if we're splitting hairs here, that's not an argument to say he's not.
Actually, I agree with Mangan mostly because of the point that he's using with me is the fact that I actually think of the Big Four era of tennis, with it being Murray, Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer. When I think tennis, rather than it just being Federer dominating.
But he led the way.
Well, yeah, you're right. He did lead the way, but Phil the Power Taylor led the way to what darts became.
But tennis is completely a different sport from darts.
Those other players only started to stand a chance when he got into his latter years, and even in his latter years, 38, and he's still amongst the top 4 in the world.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that he's not a good player. I'm not idiotic, and I'm not saying that he's not in the top 2. It's just when I think icon, I think the utmost top of the sport. You think directly him.
But I do.
I think that's what a lot of people think.
Well, no, because tennis also, I think of the tournaments quite a lot more. I mean, Wimbledon's the biggest thing in tennis to me.
But that's not a person.
Well, you're right, but it still sort of shows.
That's like saying is Lionel Messi bigger than the World Cup? It's like that doesn't make sense. Federer grew the sport massively.
Ritson, it doesn't matter because you get to decide.
Yeah. No,
okay, great. That's fine. I don't care anymore. But also, Collins, think about what he's done off the court as well. I mean, he's a perfect.
These are high standards. If we're not putting Federer and icon, geez.
You're not putting a guy who every journalist puts in the top 5 sportsmen of all time.
I mean, he is literally the face of tennis. He is tennis, and tennis is one of the biggest sports in the world.
The only reason you might think of Wimbledon stuff is because we're in England, but around the world, it's gonna be the Wimbledon.
Ritson. This is the opinion of a guy who's not a tennis fan. You don't need to take it seriously.
And I just want to make sure he gets.
Put him icon. We'll move on.
Don't worry.
If he didn't get icon, I would not be in this podcast.
Okay, I'm gonna kick off my list, and I want to talk about David Beckham. Oh. Now, similarly, when you think football, well, if you're not from England, or more if you're from America, if you think football, you think David Beckham instantly, and that hurts me a bit because he's the most famous footballer on the planet, probably. But we know he's nowhere near one of the best of all time. And that, for me, is the definition of overrated. I mean, I appreciate him from a personal perspective in that he seems like a decent guy. He's done good charity work for UNICEF and that. And his accomplishments in football are not to be, laughed at. Don't get me wrong, he's a very good player. But for him to be, the most well-known football player and be nowhere near one of the best of all time, that, to me, is not acceptable.
David Beckham's one of the best English footballers of all time.
Yeah, but Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard are both better.
You can think that,
no,
but it doesn't change. It doesn't diminish David Beckham, a guy who played over 100 games for England as its captain. The guy who was part of the class of '92 and was arguably the leading figure with 62 goals. One of the most famous crosses in world football ever.
I'm not denying he's talented, but he wouldn't probably wouldn't even be in like the top 50 players of all time.
A
And
guy-
he's the most famous.
A guy who was picked to be part of one of the Galacticos alongside Zinedine Zidane.
There's a lot of Galacticos that are better than David Beckham.
Yeah, you probably put Jonathan Woodgate up there as well, don't you?
No.
God, no. Jonathan. To be fair, Jonathan Woodgate had the greatest debut of all time. 2 on goals and a red card.
Oh my God!
Right.
Oh,
Let's be honest. When you think of David Beckham, you think icon. Like.
No, you don't.
You don't, because you're weird.
No, you think model. You don't think football. You think perfume model.
You think always goal against Wimbledon, always goal against Greece in the last minute to put England in the World Cup. You think always goal against Ecuador in the round of 16 at the 2006 World Cup. Like, I think it's unfair to call him overrated. I think it's really unfair to call him overrated.
But he simply is. He's the most well-known football player on the planet, but he's not the best or close to the best.
I agree.
He finished twice for World Player of the Year, second twice. He's also named by Pele as one of the 100 greatest living players.
But what does that mean? Like a 72-year-old naming a player as a good player? Like,
I mean, it's Pele.
Pele.
Pele also
just
said,
because it's Pele doesn't mean it's like true.
Pele also said Messi isn't the greatest of all time, so his mind's clearly
I mean, Pele's opinion is about as good as mine. Like, he was a good footballer, but like that doesn't mean he's got a good football brain or whatever. Like, in terms of like knowing who's better. Like,
to be fair, lads, let's keep Pele's name out of this because he said that Nicky Butt was the best player of the 2002 World Cup. So,
I don't understand why this is so controversial to say he's not. He's not in like the top 10, 20 players in the world.
You have done what everyone who thinks David Beckham is overrated always does. They focus on the fact that he's a good-looking guy, married to Posh Spice, and he also built a brand outside of football.
Here's the thing, Whoa.
I haven't said that.
Hang on a second. Right. Here's the thing. Yeah, he did the brand, and he's an incredibly handsome man. I mean, I would. But the thing is, right, if he wasn't as good looking and he didn't have that, brand, that Beckham brand, would we really be talking about him that much?
Yes.
I mean,
because he was the captain of the England team.
I think
we'd be talking about it, but nowhere near as much as.
Yeah.
How often are you talking about David Beckham?
Well, no, I'm saying all I'm saying is when he is the most famous footballer in the world, but he's not even in the top maybe 10,
he's also
20.
not the most famous footballer in the world. There are 2 very, very in particular ones you can think of, and I'd even say a third.
They're the best, but they're the best. But in America, if you go all the way to America, they're gonna think, if you think football, you just go like David Beckham somewhere.
That's because he played for LA Galaxy and he was the first big name player to go there.
It probably did create the MLS to what it is today. Like, it is a lot bigger than it was before David Beckham showed up.
Look, I'm sorry, the man's won 6 Premier Leagues. He's won 19 major trophies, 19 major trophies on his own. And once again, captained England. You don't get to do that unless you're an amazing player.
I haven't once said he's not an amazing player.
Right.
He said that he's not as good as his fame represents. Like,
yes, that's my point. That's why I'm saying
the correlation between his skills on the pitch and his fame overall in the outside world are not the same.
Yeah,
they don't match each other. That's why he's saying he's overrated, and I agree with that point. But I also agree with the fact he was obviously an amazing player, achieved a lot, and all the rest of it. But again, if we're just going about, if we were going skills to fame, he wouldn't be an icon. We wouldn't be talking about him being high up in this list.
Hang on. No one has said that he should be in the top tier.
No, I know, but I just meant high up. I meant high up. Not just icon.
Well,
Manu did say he was an icon.
No, he's an icon in the sense of what he is. I wouldn't put him there. Like, he probably made the most out of the MLS than anyone else could have. Like, and you also have to, we've been looking at his charity work. He is literally a goodwill ambassador to UNICEF. Like,
so is Federer.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing, right? if he didn't have quite as much. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. If there wasn't an overrated tier, I'd probably put him in role model. That's what I was. But I do think he's overrated because, as I said before, the correlation between his skills on a pitch and his name overall in the world are nowhere near on the same level.
Yeah, I mean, I could literally name 3 players better than him in the same midfield that he played in for England: Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard.
True.
But yeah, none of them are like anywhere near his fame levels worldwide.
Yeah, that's true. It's the brand. It's because of the brand.
So what you're saying is the fact that David Beckham actively tried to work outside of football because he wanted to own a football club means that he should be disrespectful to this level.
No.
David Beckham is one of the greatest English players.
I mean, that doesn't take much to be one of the greatest English players. To be fair, there's barely any good ones.
But he wasn't even the best in his own. He wasn't even the best English player in the English team. Any of the English teams.
That's actually ridiculous.
That's actually ridiculous to say that it doesn't take much to be one of the best English
players.
It's
a joke.
Well, you know what? Yeah, but you say it and you're completely ridiculing your argument. You just don't like David Beckham, admit it.
I like David Beckham. I've wrote a lot about him.
You clearly don't.
I think this is a completely fair argument that his fame doesn't represent his ability. I don't think they correlate. That's all I'm saying. I'm not like saying he's terrible. I'm bloody fantastic player. His stats I've written incredible things. 19 major trophies, 115 appearances.
Let's go right.
He's a great footballer.
Here's a comparison. Let's go back to Federer for a second. He's the best of all time, and he's also ridiculous. I mean, he's ridiculously famous, right? But that's it. He's the very best. Does all the charity he's massive, but he's also the best. David Beckham is as big as Federer is, but his skills nowhere near
That's because football's a more marketable sport.
No,
there's really not much of an argument to have here. His fame doesn't represent his football skill.
No, because there is that argument, and you just saying, there's no argument there is indicative that you don't care about David this argument at all. You just want to say you don't like David Beckham, and that is it. You are a bitter Liverpool fan.
Well, why is
Liverpool care less about less about that. I love Marcus Rashford. I'll say that now. I'll admit that now. I think it's pretty much a fact that David Beckham's fame does not correlate to his football ability.
I think the fact that David Beckham doesn't run really fast means you don't think his fame correlates to his footballing ability.
What are you talking about now?
Collins, I think you're arguing incredibly immaturely at this point. I mean,
I'm really not.
We're not. Right.
But I'm making a pretty fair statement, and you're coming back with he's not fast.
Because okay. What about David Beckham's ability wasn't up to the standard that you think? Go on, what is it?
Well, he's not Ronaldo or Messi.
Simply the fact that he's probably not in the top 20 players of all time, yet he's maybe the most famous, if we're going to say maybe.
He's not top 20 of the last 20 years, let's be honest.
It's quite simple. His fame doesn't correlate to his ability. His ability was great, but it's not top 5 in the world. I mean, I think that's quite a reasonable statement.
He just finished second in the World Player of the Year awards twice.
Because they're always so accurate.
I mean, Michael Owen won Ballon d'Or. Is he the most famous person in the world?
He won
Michael Owen also suffered an horrific injury and has the personality of a wet blanket.
Oh yeah, David Beckham. God, I'd love to see him on a Live at the Apollo.
I think the periods are being childish. I'm not gonna lie.
No, because I'm making a fair statement. I'm getting useless arguments that he wasn't Usain Bolt back. Well,
no, because what his style of play is something that is different to what is traditionally seen from a right midfielder nowadays, and it's diminished. And because of the way that the wingers works now, it makes people look back at how he played and think it wasn't as good. The fact is, if you got the ball to David Beckham on the wing, he was going to put it exactly where it was needed to in order to score that header.
I know. I haven't once said he's not a good player. He's an amazing player. but not
Right.
not as good as his fame
No.
suggests.
Overrated is where you're not actually good.
It's not.
No,
No, it is not.
no. Because if people say Neymar's overrated, it doesn't mean he's not a world-class player. And a lot of
Yeah,
people do
I've said Neymar's overrated, but I've also said he's a world-class player.
Exactly. It doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're overrated. They're rated more than they should be.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that they're bad.
Simple.
I mean, it could mean that they're bad, but not in this case.
I think once again, lads, the names of these tier lists have gone horrific.
What? I mean,
Right.
They're all open to suggestion.
I think we should vote because wow,
okay, Mangan, you go first.
hurtful. I'm gonna put him as role model. I think overrated is very, very harsh.
I also say role model.
Okay, we know Paddy's putting him at overrated. So that
I'd
means...
just like to say I like David Beckham a lot. But
yeah, same.
I'm going to say overrated.
Same. And as I said before, I would have put him in role model if the last tier wasn't overrated. But I think he's overrated, so I'll put him there.
So we say decent then. Oh, no, wait. I get the...
Oh no, or would it? Because there's a tier in between. Would that not go indecent?
I was going to say, should we just go... Oh.
So see, that was the difference between...
you know what we've got to do last episode? We've got to establish rules.
We did no. We said we gave it our word to the audience in the last episode.
You know, I think there's a difference with the fact that we gave the benefit to Ritson with Icon and Legend compared to with...
I'm happy to put him in decent.
All right.
I probably would have been happy with role model. I think he is a role model, but... Yeah.
Same.
I mean, I have to pick someone for that category.
Same. The thing is, we couldn't say sport and figureheads and have the last one be, oh, they're awful.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it could have been. Why is he an icon?
Yeah,
that's hard to pick though. If you Google sport and icons, it's flipping hard to find
right.
one that's like.
Put him decent, and let's move on. God damn.
Please, someone less controversial, for God's sake. That was on number 3. Jesus.
For the love of God, please choose like something quickly.
All right, let's go for one that should be quite easy to argue. Mainly because I'm the only one who's going to really know enough to talk about it. We're going to go with LeBron James. Arguably seen as the second greatest basketball player of all time by myself, and it's not because I'm a Chicago fan. He is basketball today, quite simply. You could argue Steph Curry has slightly taken the mantle to him, but how many of you three have just went, who's that?
No, I know Steph Curry is.
All right, there we go. Ritson
Yeah,
there.
Golden State Warriors. Is it Golden State Warriors?
Yeah, he is.
Yes.
There you go. But when Kobe started declining, he took over that mantle as the best player in the league, and he's still got it today, even though he is 34, 35. Yeah, he should be declining by now, but he seems to just keep on going. And now he goes into the NBA playoffs with the most rest he's possibly ever got for it. So it'll be quite interesting to see how it goes if it does happen. I mean, there are already coronavirus cases happening inside their bubble that should be immune to the coronavirus. But yeah, outside of that, you've got to talk about his amazing work towards the Black community. He's donated tons of money to schools in his hometown Akron. Hopefully, I pronounced that right. He's an incredibly outspoken on Black Lives Matter. Unfortunately, it is only Black Lives Matter that he'll talk out about, and I get it. It's a cause close to his heart, but there are iffy things about him. For instance, when the general manager of the Houston Rockets tweeted out support towards the Hong Kong protests, and China started threatening to ban the NBA, rather than come out to the defense of Daryl Morey, he said he should only talk about things he understands.
Wow.
It's a horrific viewpoint to have, in my opinion. You're trying to silence criticism by only saying people who are qualified to talk about it can talk about it.
I don't think.
Yeah, John Terry did that once, and
by talking about the Hong Kong crisis, he's not necessarily saying that Black lives don't matter. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Yo.
Alongside that, with obviously Black Lives Matter has been incredibly, it's the highest it's ever been. You could say worldwide, but most in particular America. Well, unfortunately, one of the most outspoken people towards Black Lives Matter, Stephen Jackson, he's another former NBA player, and he's came out as one of the leaders of the group, a group that kind of lacks a figurehead. Well, he came out and he's very anti-Semitic. Oh boy, the man has quintupled down. He has not only defended himself, he's defended himself 6 times.
Quintupled, love it.
Yeah. And what do you know? LeBron's not saying anything about that as well. Now, it's not his job to, but it's one of those things where you can't have it both ways, and you can understand why he gets criticism for it. Having said that, he is still at least top 3 player of all time, and should be high up there. What do you guys think?
Well, I think it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to say top 3 because, in my opinion, he's always been the bridesmaid to someone else who we'll talk about later in terms of the best in basketball. But similar to Michael Jordan, who we'll get onto later.
You didn't want to name him.
Yeah, I didn't, but I decided to do it anyway because obviously it'll come up later on as well. Like Jordan, like Kobe Bryant, a bit like maybe Steph Curry in more recent times. I don't really watch basketball, but I know them names, like, because of what they do. Like, you sometimes see like LeBron on YouTube or Facebook, like people saying, "Oh my God, this is amazing! He's amazing." But he is probably second best. Let's be honest.
Well, if I could just come at you with some stats here, if I clear my throat. 2 Olympic gold medals. America kind of win that by default.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that as an argument.
Three NBA championships. 3rd all-time points. An active supporter of non-profit organizations. And this is the most interesting thing. In 2010, he was voted one of the most disliked athletes in America. But in 2013, he was voted the most popular basketball player.
Yeah. I'll explain that. In 2010, he moved to the Miami Heat after hosting a 1-hour live special where he announced his decision to leave his hometown club to join with a couple of other of the best players in the league at a new one.
Wow.
So, people weirdly didn't like that.
So basically, the Man City of basketball is what you're saying.
Look, genuinely, here's a relatable scenario to you. Imagine if Steven Gerrard's contract was expiring. In fact, not expiring, had expired, and he was free to sign with anyone else. And he announced on a 1-hour TV show, which admittedly was for charity, that he was signing for Man City. But not only that, he went, "I'm taking my talents to Manchester." It's like, you can understand. No one liked him at this time. It led to Derrick Rose, who was my favorite basketball player of all time. It led to him becoming named the league MVP because despite LeBron James having an arguably statistically better season, Derrick Rose led the number 1 team that had won the most games to the playoffs, and so even though statistically wise it was inferior, he had the narrative. Or rather, LeBron had the anti-narrative to make him not want to be chosen, and that's still kind of stuck around. It left when he returned back to Cleveland, but once he left. But even then, he's left again. But he won a championship for the most times. I was like, go ahead, LeBron, go to LA and make Space Jam 2.
One interesting thing about LeBron James, which might not do him much good, is he has won 3 titles, but he's also lost 6 finals. Not the best record if you're wanting to try and be one of the greatest of all time. Usually greatest of all time are usually, clutch players who have incredible records in finals. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that, like, it's a team sport, so it's not all on LeBron. But I did think it is worth putting out there.
Yeah. It also, to go with that, basketball is probably the least team sport possible.
Yeah.
If you have two of the best players, you're a favorite to go to the NBA Finals. And going on to that, obviously we've talked about Paddy. You mentioned how he was the least popular athlete in 2010. The Miami Heat then made it to the NBA Finals that season, where he had one of the worst final series in the NBA like ever. And it was always seen as like, oh, LeBron can't get it done. LeBron can't get it done because he hadn't won a single championship at this point. He failed at Cleveland. Yes, he had that reputation. Now he's managed to alleviate that because he would eventually win the next two with Miami. He'd then lose again. So at that point, he's 2-5. Yeah, no, 2-4. He then goes back to Cleveland. Wins one in one of the most memorable and iconic final series performances of all time, where they went 3-1 down, only to win 4-3.
Is that where he made the block in like the last?
Yeah. It's probably Cleveland's most iconic sporting moments, like as a city, because they had their three best players all do something there. There was the shot by Kyrie Irving that has essentially sealed the game. There was the block by LeBron James to stop the comeback from possibly happening, and there was also the shutdown by Kevin Love. So it's seen as one of the most iconic things in NBA sports that he's done. And then he'd lose again with Cleveland, and he now went to the Lakers, where last year he actually didn't make the playoffs. It was the first time since his second year in the NBA. No, since his first year in the NBA. So we were coming up to about 13 years that he hadn't made that last time he hadn't made the playoffs. Wow, I can talk about basketball a lot, can't I?
Yeah. God, yeah.
I feel like we should probably just vote before I really inflate the time.
I'll kick it off then. I'm going to say legend. Not quite icon, but I think legend.
I think role model probably. Because of some of his views and the fact that he is the bridesmaid, in my opinion.
Collins, what about you? I'm just interested to hear what you've got to say.
I'd probably go legend as well, just on the simple process of okay, look, really he's an icon, but it's like we've got the other guy on the list.
Yeah, that was basically my thinking. Like, he's not quite that level of iconship.
Yeah.
I had to make up a word.
He didn't take basketball to the next level like the other guy did.
I mean, bloody hell, it's like £5 for anyone who can guess it at this point. Who that guy is?
Hang on, said it.
I know. We're still trying to hide it.
Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Why are we hiding it when his picture's literally on the list?
Know, yeah.
I've just kind of watched on.
I knew I was never going to put him in icon, and it doesn't matter now what I vote anyway. I was kind of stuck between role model and legend, especially after what's been said, because I didn't know some of the things that have been said. But I think I would put him in legend anyway, because of, he's like top 3, top 5 of all time easily. So I think it'd be a bit of a disservice to put him lower.
Okay, should we go for a quick one now then, seeing as what I just did?
Okay. Well, I'll do a quick one. You've spoken about LeBron James, the bridesmaids. I want to talk about the bride.
A quick one. I can talk. You think how much I've talked about?
Well, you don't have to talk much. You just have to agree with me here. Michael Jordan, probably the best ever player in basketball. Like Colin said, he made it what it is today. He put that standard. LeBron James has 3 rings, 3 titles. Michael Jordan has 6. 3 consecutive MVPs and titles, plus 2 gold medals as well.
He did that twice, by the way. The three consecutive titles.
There we
and
go.
retired for 2 years in between.
Led the NBA scorer in 10 seasons, which is an NBA record. In 1999, ESPN's survey of journalists, athletes, and other sports figures ranked Jordan the greatest North American athlete of the 20th century. He retired with 32,292 points in the regular season and 5,987 points in the playoffs, which is the second best. Larry Bird said that he was the best player he's ever seen. He's now owner of the Charlotte Hornets, so he is bred new life into the sport as well. He's created a new team for it.
Oh no, you haven't seen what the Charlotte Hornets are like. That's not new life.
And he's also donated about 30 million to charities. He is also the first basketball player to surpass £1 billion, or dollars rather, as a basketball player. The fourth richest African American. Like I said, 30 million to donation. That's only just a couple of articles that I've read, which include like Make-A-Wish, health clinics, hurricane relief. Icon, I'm putting him.
Yeah, you didn't even mention Space Jam.
Oh, of course, and bringing people in with Space Jam and giving the Looney Tunes another 10 years of popularity.
I mean, yeah, you took me joke away from me there. I was going to say, I don't care about his achievements. Icon just for Space Jam. One of the best films ever.
Yeah, Michael Jordan is the reason basketball is a global sport. You want to talk like thinking like tennis, and you think Roger Federer, and you think darts, and you think Philip Howard Taylor. You think basketball. You don't even think basketball. You think Michael Jordan. It's as simple as that.
One of the most famous people. Full stop.
Yeah, I don't think there is anyone more important to a sport than Michael Jordan.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
So, can I play devil's advocate?
Oh, I'm gonna hate no.
Not because I want to.
No.
Well, I
That's good. It's good to spark debate, but I'm not sure where you're going.
I'm looking at a list right now, and Collins, you're the guy on basketball here. Jesus Christ. So I'll see what you say about this. So apparently, right, here's why he's not the greatest NBA player of all time. He won his titles in an era of when expansion teams were added, therefore diluting the overall quality of the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't get the Washington Bullets to the playoffs. I don't know what that means, but apparently it's a reason. He was a huge ball hog, taking up to 30 shots every single game. He couldn't get past the first round of the playoffs without Scottie Pippen. Great name. The NBA teams he defeated in the finals were overrated. Hang on a second. There's more. There's a few more reasons here. He constantly lost in the 80s. He wasn't a good playmaker. Several other players are qualified for the throne. I don't know. Again, let's see. Abdul-Jabbar.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, he is a worthy name, to be fair.
Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. Anyway, in 1998, apparently the NBA was really bad, giving the Bulls an easy path to be number one. And here's probably a big reason you could probably, to take away from Jordan is after his first retirement, the Bulls were practically as good as before he retired.
Did LeBron James write that?
Yeah, was this from IHateJordan.com?
The thing is, when you said you were going to play devil's advocate, I didn't think you were going to give me that many facts.
I'm going to quickly go through these. So what was the first one again?
Oh, God.
Oh, we're not doing all
No.
Trying to get through basketball here.
I mean, I will say, you called him a ball hog. I literally told you the points he's got. I think he's allowed to be a bit of a ball hog.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm gonna pull out that second one about how he couldn't get Washington to the playoffs. He was 42 years old and still averaged 24 points a game, despite the fact that he injured himself halfway through his second season.
What about him win the titles in the expansion teams?
No one else won the titles in the expansion era.
Yeah, but true. I don't know. Again, I just tried to find something.
Like I said, LeBron James literally wrote that down. at home now with like a fake mustache.
Also, that is a despicable thing to say, that the teams he beat in the finals were overrated.
Hey, don't blame me.
I hate Karl Malone, and who was part of the Utah Jazz. Like, as a person, read some of the things this man has done. He is. You want to talk about like icons of tier lists? Overrated is too good for this man. We need a separate tier called like the depths of hell is where he belongs.
Wow.
But him and John Stockton were two top 10 players in the NBA at the time, and he still beat them 2 years in a row in the NBA Finals.
I mean, you have to also look at, when you think of Michael Jordan, you're not just think of Space Jam. You think of literally just Game 6.
The shot, yeah.
Yeah, the shot in the last seconds to beat the Utah Jazz.
In his last ever game before he went to Washington 3 years later.
That one, yeah. That I don't know.
Jay-Z and Kanye bring it up in one of their songs.
Oh, yeah. That song. Actually, what song?
I can't say.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Genuinely, one last thing. We didn't even mention The Last Dance that came out recently. And shot up to be one of the most watched things on Netflix, showing how popular he is. We should really vote.
Icon.
Yeah, Icon.
Yeah, Icon.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I've got to put him in overrated. No, he's Icon, obviously. Yeah.
I hate you.
Yeah, no, obviously.
Okay, next person.
It's written.
I'm going to go with Phil Mickelson. Now, hopefully this won't be too long.
No one else knows who he is.
Because, Phil Mickelson.
I think he's quite famous. He's very famous.
I know who he is.
Phil Mickelson is a very good golfer. He's a world-class golfer throughout his career, okay? He's won 5 majors and numerous other titles. However, it's an interesting thing. He never reached world number 1. Because of a certain other golfer, it's Tiger Woods. And that is, he's been completely overshadowed by Tiger Woods, hasn't he? Let's be honest. He's a great golfer and he's won 5 majors, but Tiger Woods, in the early 2000s, even still today, he's probably the most famous golfer, but, he didn't stand a chance. Like, Tiger Woods was the front page man. And that's unfortunate for Phil Mickelson that he had to be in the same era, because otherwise maybe he would have been, world number 1 and won, maybe 10 majors or more. Who knows? Listen, I don't want to talk about this too much. I think this is a perfect candidate for the decent category.
Ooh.
I don't think he's overrated, because I don't think anyone rates him that highly as an icon of any sport. But he is very famous, and in that era, Tiger Woods, it was like Woods first, and then you drop down a bit, and then okay, I've got to look down a bit further. But there's Phil Mickelson. He was the number 2 guy.
If I can just bring him down a peg even further.
Oh God! Don't do him like this.
One of the first things I saw of him was him speaking out publicly against his Ryder Cup captain in a press conference, which was completely out of order. He was basically playing the Ryder Cup captain for everything, even though he's the one on the field not performing. He once owed over $2 million in gambling debt, not responsible.
So did Michael Jordan.
And he once played but. There was,
let's move.
There was a bit of a police case with that.
Oh,
but I'm not going into it. And he played at Saudi Arabia, all for the money, despite all the human rights abuse that's going on there. He ignored all the critics and just did it.
Yeah. I don't think I could put I think he has to go in decent personally, because he's not overrated, but he is a famous sportsman, and he was one of the best players for a time period in the 2000s, and he's still been a top player in recent years too, in the last decade. So, Collins Mangan, you got any thoughts on Phil Mickelson?
It's the same as LeBron James for me. He is the bridesmaid.
The same as LeBron James.
in the sense that
because I don't think
compliment.
He's the bridesmaid in the sport. Like he was meant to be. Any other time, he would have probably been the dominant figure, but Tiger Woods was there.
Yeah. Another thing is he won. So there's 4 majors in golf: the Masters, which he won 3 times, the PGA Championship he won once, and the Open Championship he won once as well. There's also the US Open, where he finished second 6 times and never won it. Again, like any other era, he might have won maybe 10 majors plus, and we'd be putting him, as maybe a role model, maybe a legend.
He's got 44 PGA Tour wins, which is the 9th of all time, and 51 professional wins. His achievements on the golf field, they're impressive, but there's a lot of bad stuff about him off it.
And yeah, also the fact he was never world number 1, 2. I mean, to win 5 majors and not become world number 1, that's almost like an achievement in itself. How do you win 5 majors and not be world number 1 once? That's amazing. I mean, probably just quite bad luck, but yeah, he has to go decent. If you guys have any other different views,
I do.
Points. Oh, okay.
Overrated.
I'd probably put him overrated.
Someone has to be an overrated.
I think he is.
The thing is, you say you can't call him overrated. I think you can, because if he's classed as a sporting icon, yet he's never been number 1 in his sport. And if you look at all the stuff he's done off the field,
I didn't say sporting icon. I just meant like a figurehead.
No, but even for a figurehead, I mean, this is a sporting icon tier list, so I mean, technically you would kind of say he's a sporting icon, but is that fair? And that's why I think overrated, because I think there's a lot of other golf players that come to my head first before Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, that's entirely fair. I mean, even when you look at the bridge between Tiger Woods and the next era, they didn't try and use Phil Mickelson to as the bridge. They used Rory McIlroy. Now, fair enough, that failed, but they're still not. No one's thinking of Phil Mickelson as the go-to golfer, and the PGA aren't either. So yeah, overrated. Sorry, who's next? Is it?
Yeah, overrated. It's Paddy.
Oh, right, we've decided that.
Yeah.
All 3 of us voted overrated.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I don't think you should be too bothered about that. So let's move on. Let's talk about Lionel Messi. Why don't we talk about Lionel Messi? 441 goals in 483 games, 70 goals in 138 games for Argentina. Was in Time's most influential 100 people, 2011 and 2012. UNICEF ambassador, and has the Lionel Messi Foundation. That's a lot of positives. The one negative I found was his tax fraud case.
I mean, that was a big thing.
I was going to go.
Which he blamed on his father. I think.
I was going to say short as a negative, but.
Yeah, I mean, he had to take HGH. Remember?
Yeah, drug cheat. No, I'm joking. Yeah, the tax fraud thing was.
Yeah, I mean, every Spanish footballer got caught for that, though.
True.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the unfortunate thing with that, is that Spain did it weird. They had, it was legal, but then they decided to make it illegal, but also that it was illegal 5 years ago.
Yeah, and they also made like the punishment like okay enough for the footballers to take the risk.
Yeah. Well, not even then. There wasn't a risk for them to take. It wasn't illegal when they did it, and when they did it, when it got changed to being illegal, they got told that, oh yeah, but we're also counting when you did it as illegal.
Oh wow!
It's not. That's the weird thing. It's not that.
Yeah,
it was unfair. It's not that it was an okay punishment that was worth the risk. It's that there was no punishment at the time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everyone should pay as much tax as they can.
I've literally just started talking about Lionel Messi. We're already on to tax.
Yeah. Let us talk about the man as a player.
Amazing.
Greatest of all time, in my opinion. The GOAT.
Yeah, I think if you disagree with that, you're a bit, a bit stupid.
A Ronaldo fanboy.
People who say Ronaldo's better, honestly.
I think we've got a bone to pick here. I don't think he is the best of all time.
Oh, you're going to say someone
who do you think?
sarcastic. He's going to say something stupid.
It doesn't matter now. The joke's gone.
No, I want to know who you're going to
No,
say.
it's alright. You predicted it. It's fine.
Were you going to say David Beckham?
No, I was going to say Divock Origi.
Oh, wow.
You know what? I'll go with that. I agree.
Right. When you look at 970 goal contributions this decade, it's incredible. That's obviously goals and assists, but he's also done that in about 950 games. So the man's more likely to get you a goal than not when he plays a game.
Yeah. He scored, what was it, 91 goals in a calendar year?
Yep. I think actually generally the only knock you can have on this guy as a player is his international success.
I was literally going to say that.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely hasn't been as good for Argentina, but despite that, 70 goals in 138 games is nothing to be laughed at.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Ronaldo won the Euros.
Oh, yeah, but that was the luckiest international win of all time. They should have been out. They came third in the group and got through. Then
All right, let's not talk about Ronaldo during the Messi part.
Sorry, I was about to get ready.
Yeah, and how many penalty shootouts is Messi being away from the tournament win?
Well, the man they literally lost 3 finals in a row. They lost Copa America on pens to Chile. Then they lost the World Cup final. Was that on?
No, that was 1-0. That was Gator.
Extra time, and Higuain has blood on his hands.
Yeah, and then the very next year they lost Copa America again to Chile.
You know what though? If it wasn't for Higuain missing a couple sitters in a couple of those finals, he'd have won the World Cup and he would have won the Copa America.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
he could have very easily won them. He's not been a complete disaster for Argentina. He's not been nowhere near as good as he's been for Barcelona, but
they wouldn't have got to those finals
without it. To a World Cup final and the Copa America finals.
Yeah, I think people are a little bit harsh when they criticise Messi for his Argentina career.
It's because Maradona can't give up the fact that he's not Argentina's best ever footballer.
Well, also as well, if you look at the teams that Messi plays in, they always have amazing attacks, but the worst defences ever. They're always so top heavy.
Demichelis and Otamendi at centre back, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when Marcus Rojo's your left back, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good night. What's the point of going up?
But
I feel like that we've done all we can talk about with Messi.
Well, kind of. The thing is, I think I've messed up my rating. I think I've been not generous enough where I was going to put him.
Where are you going to put him?
Well, I was going to put him legend.
Okay.
I possibly think maybe icon now, because when I was first thinking of it, I was thinking to be icon, you have to have some sort of impact off the pitch, in terms of philanthropy or something like that. And I didn't think he had that, but he actually does. He's also a UNICEF ambassador, and he has his own Lionel Messi Foundation. And culturally, he's made a massive impact. So
I do think he is the best of all time in the most popular sport in the entire world. Yeah. So I think
I'm going to revise my thing and say icon.
He's won 6 Ballon d'Ors, a million La Liga titles. That's not an official statistic, by the way. He was the best player. He was the best. He was the best player in the World Cup 2014. So many achievements. I mean, I'm just looking at them right now. I mean, the list goes on forever. I couldn't. If I listed all the achievements, I'd have an entire podcast in itself.
To be fair, everyone says that World Cup Best Player award was just a sympathy decision because he lost the World Cup final.
Yeah, I think it kind of was. I'm pretty sure he was not the best at that World Cup.
Well, oh well.
I can't remember who was. I think it was. Oh no, I can't remember. It was too long
Probably
ago.
a German. Considering they won it.
Yeah, no, I don't even think it was a German. I think it was. I can't remember.
I think a lot of people wanted it to be James Rodriguez because he was.
Oh, that was his breakout tournament.
Oh yeah, true.
And then he did nothing since. Mangan, what's your vote?
I think legend. Oh no, this is. Oh, it's really confusing. Because I think legend because of his international years, which, let's be honest, it needs to be defined by a trophy because you've got some here that have won it on both international and club level, but he is one of the best players ever to have graced the game.
I think it's hard to judge by that because a lot of sports here that don't have an international level. So that's unfair on him to base it off that because he's not competing against people that have that same obstacle.
See, I semi-agree with Mangan in that he's it's whether it's icon or legend, it's genuinely just a case of I think football is probably the hardest sport for you to get into that absolute top tier for me because there's so much history in football that I wonder, is it going to be a case of someone will bring up Messi stats and I go, oh yeah, what a player. Or is it going to be a case, or will I just naturally think of Messi one day? And I also
think it's one of the most difficult to get in the top tier in football because there's 11 people on a team. Now in basketball, you said it's like the least team-based sport. Whatever it was. And then obviously you got a lot of icons on this list are from individual sports that have already been named. So yeah, I do agree with that. But I mean, when Messi leaves Barcelona, I mean, I kind of can't wait for it because it's gonna.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I want to see them Barcelona just.
Yeah, because he's gonna.
I want to see him win. Like Champions Leagues and stuff, because I can't have Ronaldo winning more Champions League.
Yeah.
Because then the fanboys have something to argue with. But anyway, that's besides the point.
Where are we going?
I'm sticking with legends.
Interesting. Collins?
Oh, can we please come back to me?
It'd be icon anyway because it's my. I would get the final thing.
True, fair enough. I'm gonna wimp out and say icon then.
Yeah,
I could have understood legend, but I think thinking about it a bit hard, I'd say icon.
Right. Okay. Collins, is it?
Yeah. You know what? We've had one of the two. We might as well have the other. I'm gonna bring up Ronaldo, who genuinely is possibly the actual public face of football, and I don't think that is harsh to say.
No, I think it is.
Because Ronaldo's got the brand of David Beckham with almost all of the skill of Messi. Now I am saying I think Messi's a better player
easily,
but I think that Ronaldo is more popular and has more staying power in people's minds of the actual thought process of what football is.
But
the guy is literally the most followed person on Instagram. He's also one of the most richest sportsmen in the world. He has deals everywhere, and I think in terms of like icons of a sport, it's actually what puts him above Messi. Not in terms of skill. I repeat, not in terms of skill, but he does have lots of skill to back it up. You look at his scoring records. If we just look at Real Madrid alone, 311 goals in 292 appearances. That's incredible and incredibly difficult to do. He's got the most hat-tricks in history with 56. He's won 29 major trophies and the Champions League 3 times, more than Messi. And he's only one behind on Ballon d'Or. And he's won an international trophy.
Oh, that's a low blow.
No, I agree with Collins entirely because my sticking point for Messi was the international circuit, and he.
Circuit.
Let us be honest. It was fortunate how he's got it, but he has got it, and he also has the Nations Trophy, which is the Community Shield of internationals, but he's still got it.
It's genuinely hilarious. It wasn't even at the final.
He didn't even play the game. He didn't play the game that they won it in, and they shouldn't have even been there anyway.
He didn't play it, and they should have been out of the bloody group stage.
They had the easiest group ever, and they came third in it. And then they won like all the other games on like penalties. The worst win of a tournament ever. It was a disgrace. That.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, I can't take it away from him. He's still done it. Another thing, most goals in Champions League history and most assists. People talking about being a selfish player. Most assists in Champions League history. I mean,
Most international goals.
It's got to say something. Over 1,000 professional appearances, over 700 goals. Again, he did the tax evasion thing like Messi, but it's not even that big a deal at this point. But this is very surprising thing from it. He was named 2015 most charitable sports person with a £5 million donation to the Nepal after an earthquake, and he also paid for a terminally ill kid's treatment to save their life.
Person.
I heard about that.
So also did that, Paddy.
What?
Paid for a terminally ill kid's operation.
Well, I mean, now you're just making me look heartless, but
I think this should be quick. I think this should be quick. Really, I think icon as well.
It is icon.
No, I was going to say legend.
I was going to say legend as well.
I think he's below Messi.
Unfortunately, Collins has to decide.
Yeah, I guess so. But can we explain though? Like, I just think you put him. I think he's a tier below Messi. Like, just that's what I think.
I mean, as a footballer, he's everyone says, oh, he's a better goal scorer. No, he's not. He's not a better goal scorer. Messi has a better goal to game ratio. The only reason Ronaldo has more goals is because Messi's played less, like 100+ less games. Messi's also way better creatively, way more assists, a way better dribbler, a way better set piece taker. I think he scored nearly as many free kicks as Ronaldo now, and everyone used to bang on about how good he was at those. I mean, Ronaldo's obviously the second best.
As many.
No, but a lot of them only came in the last 5 years. I mean, because like early on in his Barca days, he had like Ronaldinho taking them, for example, and then when Neymar took some. Anyway, yeah, I mean, he's obviously second best of all time in football, but because the reason I put him in legends is because Messi is clearly better. Like, there's a gap.
It's like, as I said, it's not about ability to me why he's an icon out and out to me, and Messi's on the brink. It's staying power of the people's mind.
Yeah, but I think
Ronaldo is that. Ronaldo's more of a poster child to football than Messi.
Yeah, I can accept that, but that's because of his looks. And
I was going to say
it's not just because of his looks.
It kind of is.
A lot of
no, right? Okay, by poster child, I obviously do not mean they are putting him on a poster.
No, but I get what.
He's the reason he's so marketable is because of the way he looks. If
he's so marketable because he actively makes his brand. This is the David Beckham argument.
But it's not. I mean,
let's move on.
No, it's not. I mean, he's marketable because he's good looking. I'm not trying to take things away from him.
And also one of the best of all time.
He's a handsome lad as well.
Yeah, but let's be honest.
Not same level.
Like if girls see Messi in a tight pair of Calvins modeling, they're less likely to drool all over him.
It's just like Ronaldo's build and everything, like his.
Yeah.
I don't want us to sound too sexy, but his six pack,
Oh God.
Gonna have to mark it out for a concept
his golden tan is super smooth.
Oh, I just get lost. I just get lost in those eyes.
All right, let's move on. I think we've all voted. Next up is back to Mangan.
Yeah, we've talked about Bill Taylor. Not the biggest of sports in terms of what it is. I want to now talk about Ronnie O'Sullivan. Before we even begin, I am putting him decent.
Okay, agreed.
Right.
Yeah, we all agree.
With Muhammad Ali, no.
I'll give you a couple of his stats anyway, because might as well. He's played 1,306 games. He's won 982 of them. He has 1,042 centuries, and was the first ever player to get 1,000 centuries. 36 ranking titles. Probably one of the best, if not the best. The reason why he is decent because he is not bothered about it whatsoever. Like he doesn't really.
Can I just tell you some really interesting things that I found out about Ronnie O'Sullivan?
Yeah.
I did not realise his story was this interesting. When he was young, his dad was jailed for murder.
Yeah, his dad was jailed. He did a documentary about it.
And then his mother was also jailed for tax evasion. So he had to raise his younger sister on his own. He's won an OBE. Well, I say won. He's got an OBE. And he's also came through depression, alcohol, and drug-related problems. Now, to be honest, I did not know all this about him, to be fair. That's quite inspirational.
No, in terms of what he is, he's a very strong character, and he's done quite a bit for charity as well. He's helped raise money for cancer and stuff like that. But he doesn't really like being on top. Like, the reason he got so into it was for his dad, because his dad loves snooker so much as well.
I wouldn't want to try and impress him.
Well, he'd literally go to the prison to talk with him and all that. He'd visit him every week. But he was so good that he was right-handed. He was so good, he beat someone with using his left hand entirely. And that caused a bit of a scandal because he saw it as bad sportsmanship.
You know what I like? He's like, you don't get how many personalities you get in snooker. How many characters do you get that you want to hear a bit more about? Like, and he is that guy who's got a bit of personality behind the player.
Yeah.
You know what I like about Ronnie O'Sullivan? He once went on hiatus to go and work on a farm.
I saw Neil's note to doing you well.
Yep. No, and Neil's second point, he's earned the most in snooker history. He's clearly the best, over 11 million in prize money, which is good for a sport that doesn't get you much sponsorship. So you better be making that prize money.
A record 7 UK championships.
He's gotten a lot of sponsorships now because, like I said, with darts, it started to expand its brand. Like, it's really big in China, believe it or not.
I can believe that.
It actually has like proper snooker schools and everything.
China has a school for everything.
But
China wants to dominate the world.
Yeah, I think he is decent because he himself would admit he's not too bothered about it all. Like, he literally just skips out on tournaments because he's not that bothered. But you know for a fact that if he's in it, there's a good chance that he'll win. And that's my vote.
Like, to me, like, I would kind of say role model, but because I'm just looking at his story, to go through what he's gone through and become like one of the best snooker players of all time, record 7 UK championships, 5 world championships, the record for the most ranking titles, 36. From the position he was in, where really he should have ended up on the streets doing crime, and he's become one of the best snooker players of all time, OBE. To come through what he's come through, that's a role model for me right there.
To me, it has to be decent only because of the exact argument I made with Phil Taylor. It's like, he's clearly the best snooker player. He's clearly the most iconic snooker player. It's still only snooker though, and to me that means it has to be decent.
I agree with Fonz's points. They would have been mine, to be honest.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
okay, so it's decent.
Listen,
right, who's next?
All right, I'm bringing in heavy hands, Mr. Anthony Joshua. Big boy, big muscles, bodybuilder, super good looking man. All the girls love him. The absolute prick. Who wouldn't get done by John? Anyway.
Oh my god.
There's your content warning.
There's 2.
I'm just going to turn over from ITV to BBC, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh my god. That was a slow burn.
Anyway, Anthony Joshua's a Oh, shut up. He's a gold medalist at the Olympics. He's got a near perfect record in boxing, 23 wins out of 24. 21 of those 23 wins come by knockout. He's still quite young, isn't he? He's only 30. He's been one of the most famous British athletes in recent years. He's beat Klitschko and
Klitschko.
And that's it. Klitschko. I'm going to say it right now. He's overrated.
He's overrated.
Oh.
It's too early.
It's so... You know what? I'm so glad you said Klitschko. The aging Klitschko. I am one fight away from retirement. Klitschko.
He knocked him out.
Because he was crippled at that.
I mean, the way you're saying that he's only beat Klitschko, I mean, like, you're forgetting Dillian White, who's one of the best boxers in the world right now.
I was going to say that, but I just did the whole Klitschko and
he was nowhere near what he is now.
Oh, it was only a couple of years ago. It's not. He was nowhere near.
It was nowhere near.
It was 2015. To be fair,
he scraped a win over Joe Parker.
He didn't scrape a win.
It was unanimous.
He comfortably beat him. It wasn't a enthralling fight, but he outboxed him and comfortably beat him.
It was the first time in his career he hadn't knocked someone out. Like, that doesn't mean that he scraped past it, to be fair, man. And also, I also do agree with the whole, like, Dillian White, that was back in 2015. That's 5 years ago.
Dillian White was still excellent back then.
I'm not saying it wasn't.
And Dillian White beat him as an amateur, so he's
yeah, I know. I'm not saying Dillian White wasn't this is a great boxer, but I'm saying, it seems like now in the last year or two, he's really like, come on now. So I do get the points for overrated. I was going to personally put him as a role model. I mean, he's an Olympic gold medalist. I mean, come on, and he has been seen as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, and he knocked him out.
Oh my word! He did not.
Klitschko's great.
Oh, I thought you said Joshua was one of the greatest heavyweights
so did I.
of all time.
No, I said he knocked out Klitschko, who's one of the best heavyweights of all time. I didn't say Joshua was. He could be.
I mean, he does have 4 heavyweight belts out of 5, and he could become, in one more fight, he could become like only the second ever person to unify division, along with Lennox Lewis.
Yeah, but that's because boxing's just the worst sport in terms of the fact that it avoids the big money fights as long as possible.
Well, whatever way you put it, he's still holding 4 of the belts. He's beat some incredible opposition along the way. His record is not to be laughed at. He's lost 1 fight, which he avenged comfortably when he was properly prepared for the fight.
Didn't knock him out, though.
And Ruiz was the most unprepared possible for the fight.
Hang on. Sorry.
Tyson
Fury doesn't knock out that many people, right? I mean, I think it's like...
A knockout is not the determination of a good win.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the reason why I say he's overrated is it's just simply too early. I don't know if Anthony Joshua is going to stay in the limelight like Mike Tyson after he retires. I don't know if you can say boxing icon yet.
I think if he doesn't unify the division, he's not going to stay in that bracket. If he does unify the division, I think he will.
I think it comes down to how his 2 fights against the 2 other big names in heavyweights, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, go.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can see the Wilder fight happening.
I don't think he'll ever fight Wilder. I'll be honest.
The Fury fight's already signed, which I think Fury will win. But
if he beats Fury,
exactly,
if he beats Fury, and everyone says, Fury will walk all around him and that, but I mean, we saw he boxed against Ruiz. He boxed.
Ruiz is not a good comparison to Tyson Fury.
No, I know, but I'm saying he fought a completely different style to what we used to. He was quite cautious, Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, though, he would have to knock Fury out. He could not outbox Fury. He would have to knock him out, which he could do. I mean, Wilder knocked him down twice and he's got a lot less technique, a lot more power, but less technique. It's possible.
Yeah. So, what's our votes?
I'm gonna say role model.
I'm gonna say overrated.
To me, it's overrated.
I was gonna say role model because I feel like he has been a role model over the past few years. I think it suits him, but I do get your points for overrated.
It's one of those where I think we've written that down poorly.
No, I think role model because I think the way he's came back from prison, he's come back from his prison to be this super humble, he's 4-time heavyweight champion. He's a Black Lives Matter. What do you call him?
Campaigner.
Spokesman.
That's the
Spokesman?
one. Activist, yeah.
Yeah.
And doing all he's done, come back from prison and he's like such a good role model to like kids nowadays to just, if you're on the streets, get in a gym instead, go box. So I'd say role model. And I think he's a great athlete as well.
Okay, so that
titles is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So who's that next? Is it
It is Patrick. That is Patrick.
I wasn't prepared. Why don't we go with, staying on the boxing trend, why don't we go with Muhammad Ali? I think this should be a pretty short conversation.
Yeah.
Let's
be honest.
say a bit about him.
Let's be honest, he's quite overrated.
Yeah, he's Phil Mickelson level. I'll tell you some things about him, right? 61 fights, 56 wins. Won Olympic gold in 1960. He's the only 3-time lineal heavyweight champion. Massive black rights activist. And is a unusual fact about him: 2 Grammy nominations.
Good for him.
Yeah, there you go.
Why didn't they get it? I suppose he won't qualify for one-hit wonders then.
And you can see how that happened though, because he was so poetic with words. Like, he could easily be a rapper, like how poetic and inspirational he was with his words. But no one.
So you're just assuming they're rap.
No. I'm pretty sure I read on Wikipedia it was rap.
Oh, right, okay.
If I'm not, I apologize. It was not a stereotype. No, but widely regarded as one of the best boxers of all time, if not the best. Definitely the most influential boxer of all time. Inspired a generation of boxers. And if you look, it probably did maybe the most work out of the rest of these people outside of the ring, in terms of his cultural impact. So he's got to be iconic.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. The guy is iconic, not only for his in-ring, but his out-of-ring. I mean, you didn't even mention the Vietnam War, where he refused to take part due to his beliefs that it was an unjust war, which common history does say it was. And that lost him 4 years because they refused to let him fight for it. But that didn't matter to him because he thought it was better to stand up for what he thought was right than it was to try and make money. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Ritson?
Yeah, he's got to go in iconic, doesn't he? I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, the classic fights, how he changed the culture, just everything. I mean, there's no list of greatest athletes or sportsmen of all time without Muhammad Ali right at the top. Maybe not number 1, but, top 5.
I mean, to be honest, I probably would say number 1.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just saying he's always going to be in the top few.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get your brain checked if he's not icon.
If he's not 1, he'll be 2 or 3, and that's about it. He's above being a legend of sports.
Let's just put him in icon because Mangan's gone for a loo break.
Yeah, no, Mangan told me he said he thinks he's overrated.
Oh, really?
He just thinks everything about him is just overblown. He's a horrible person. And honestly, I'm not going to read some of these things because I feel like we get sued for some of the things that he's coming out with.
Jesus.
So yeah, that comes to me now, and I am going to bring up the exact opposite of Muhammad Ali. I'm going to talk ninja. Now, quick question.
Oh my god.
Muhammad Ali was a bit of a ninja.
Do you think esports are sports?
No. Let's move on.
I personally think they are.
No, they're not.
A sport is a competition that takes skill. Video games do take skill.
No, but a sport needs athletic.
I don't think that's the definition of a sport. Anything that's competitive is not a sport.
Let's play Tiddlywinks, so it's a sport.
I'm not going to play noughts and crosses against you and say, what a sport, what a day of exercise that was.
Is chess a sport?
Well,
yeah, you know what? I've just been to the gym and played some Connect 4.
Well, you know what? I'm going to still keep talking about him anyway. This guy, he has 14 million followers on Twitch.
Congratulations.
He's also the first ever gamer to feature on ESPN's magazine cover, which shows how far ESPN magazine has fallen.
That is a bit.
I'm not going to take away his achievements in gaming. Like, fair play to the guy. He's made a fortune playing video games, and he's very good at what he does. But the simple fact is, it's not a sport.
He has an endorsement deal with Adidas, and he featured in an advertisement.
Yeah, but he's also a bit of an awful person as well.
Oh, yeah, hang on. We're getting to this. I haven't talked about his women's advocacy, of which he refuses to stream with women other than with women due to the fact he thinks it would be disrespectful to his wife.
Oh, what a sin!
I think women just don't want to talk to him.
Of course not. He's a nerd.
He doxed a racist fan in 2016 on Twitch, which is probably an over-exaggeration thing to do, but it's good that a racist got outed. But he also did say the N-word on Twitch. But
yeah,
he was tongue-tied.
I think PewDiePie's done that before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He also falsely reports people who killed him by saying that they're stream sniping him. Which is just no. You can't just claim everyone playing Fortnite is watching you play Fortnite at the same time.
I've seen clips of him, and he just seems like the most immature, annoying, bratty person ever. Such a sore loser, always screaming when he loses. Like, I know I get kind of bad on FIFA and stuff, but this guy, man, I mean, Christ. I mean, you're going live in front of lots of people. Also, his hair's stupid.
He's defended this attitude as well by saying it's a weak mindset to think something's just a game.
You know what, though? I'll give him credit. He has made the most out of what he does. Like, he has done extremely well to go make Fortnite and become as big as he has. I mean, fair play. I mean, has nothing to do with sports. I have no idea why this is being allowed. But
esports are a thing, man.
Yeah, I know they are.
They shouldn't be.
They're not. They are not sports. Okay.
It's
the same. It's the same as having an e-girlfriend. You know, she's not your real girlfriend. You just talk to her over the internet. Now get a fucking real one. Oh my god.
We were going so close, so far, Ritson, but you finally swore. Now, I will say also, this man has promoted pornography to his audience, which is mostly kids, and for that reason alone, let's stick him in overrated.
What?
Yeah, he's overrated.
Well, hang on, no, pornography. Hang on, what?
All right, Neil has it written down as promoted channels featuring pornographic content, even though his audience is primarily children.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
So I feel like we should just end it there.
Well, no, I need to say I agree with the overrated. I'd put him overrated, but I think we've been a little bit harsh on him. Like,
no, his hair is stupid.
Yeah, true. but there's a lot of worse people that like on Twitch and YouTube out there than him. Like, he's not a completely terrible person. He's made mistakes, as we all. And the thing when he's saying he's stream snipers and that, he gets a lot of criticism because he's at the top. So people want to bring him down. So he feels he has to defend himself, and I can understand that.
There's a difference between saying someone did it and then moving on to the next game and getting people banned for doing it without proof.
No, I understand.
They stream sniped me, and then he gets them banned. That's like if I had as many people that were watching me play Fortnite at the same time as I played. You know what? The thought would go into my head, and I'd say it. I'd never actively just phone up Fortnite and go, "Hey, mate, get this guy out of here." I don't actually have proof, but I got killed while I was streaming at the same time. So I'm gonna assume that he was a stream sniper. That there's a difference.
No, I understand that. Overrated for sure. Like, I don't even if this was a gaming tier list, I don't see the appeal that much anyway. Like, he's very good at games, but so what? Watch him a couple times and then do something for your life.
Mang and Ritson, overrated.
Oh, overrated by far. Yeah,
but I mean, again, like obviously we've been quite harsh on him. But
I don't think he's as bad as we made him out.
But I think a lot of it's been for a bit of comedic effect here or there.
Yeah.
But his hair is definitely awful, and that alone should put him there should be a 6th tier, and he should be in there just for that. But
him and Karl Malone.
Yeah.
After I brought him up as well.
Yeah. So but he's done an incredible job.
I am going to stick with overrated, and you said you're a bit harsh on Ninja. You're not going to be harsh on this guy, Lance Armstrong.
Oh, he's the guy who landed on the moon.
Was
Oh no!
I'm joking.
Oh no!
It was Neil. I know. I'm not that stupid. Please.
No, I know. It's just funny.
Okay, it's the way you say no, like I was being serious.
No, I can't believe I laughed at it. So we just put him in overrated and move on. I mean, it's fact. It's simple fact. Overrated.
Well, yeah, he's a cheater who got Greg LeMond almost blackballed from the cyclist community because he fought so much to get it out that he was a cheater. He's a disgrace to sport, never mind to cycling. Admittedly, everyone cheats in cycling, though.
the man was regarded as the sports icon and a proper he battled testicular cancer to get back to where he was.
His demise.
He's amazing.
His demise is spectacular.
7 Tour de France titles in a row, and then you find out that all of them were based on lies and steroid abuse. This man brings sports to shame, really.
Yep, overrated.
Overrated. Move on.
Not even just that. Like, he couldn't even be like a good person outside of like being a terrible athlete for what he did.
There was the Lance Armstrong Foundation.
Yeah, but he's meant to. I've heard he's like just a horrible, arrogant.
Yeah. Like I said, he tried to get Greg LeMond blackballed from cycling's industry. Bear in mind, Greg LeMond was a 3-time Tour de France winner.
Yeah, and I heard
he almost succeeded.
I heard you have to go like all the way back to like 12th or 14th place or something to find someone who wasn't cheating around that time. It's great.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
But this man was the force. So yeah, Written. Who you got next?
I'm glad that was so quick. Who am I gonna go with? I'm gonna go with Ronaldo Nazario. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Oh, I was about to say, we've already done him.
Haha. Yeah, right. This guy is a legend of football. I mean, he burst onto the scene like probably nobody else ever. I mean, I think he scored over 100 goals before he reached 20 or something ridiculous like that. His achievements in football are extremely great, especially when you consider the incredibly unfortunate injuries that he's suffered with his knee. I can relate. He's won FIFA World Player of the Year 3 times, the European Golden Shoe, Club Footballer of the Year, World Cup Golden Boot, Footballer of the Year in the leagues he's played in, like Serie A. He's the Ballon d'Or a couple times. Considering all the injuries he had, I mean, the best striker of all time.
See, that's the thing. It's fully a case with Ronaldo where his sporting icon status comes at a price of what if, because he had the fastest rise to football ever. Like I said, but he played for Barcelona, he played for Real Madrid, he played for Inter Milan. That was where he had the second of his horrific knee injuries. And not only that, he was leading Brazil's line during the middle of an amazing golden generation for Brazil. But to me, the thing that stops him from reaching the top of the top is the fact that he is a what if.
Yeah.
Also, funny, Neil has him down as the greatest Brazilian player of all time, which is just incredibly wrong.
Who is?
Well, he's on the list.
Is he?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
It's kind of era. Well, I mean, this is a debate for maybe when we get onto him, but it's like it's an era thing, isn't it? It's like it's hard to say. Like if you put Pele in Ronaldo's era, then Ronaldo's gonna do better than him, but you can't judge him like that. You've got to judge him on how good he was for the era he was in.
Mm-hmm.
At 20 years old, he scored 34 league goals in 37 games for Barcelona. I mean, no one, not Ronaldo, not Messi, not anyone else has done that. that I can think of anyway. I can't think of anyone else.
Yeah, 247 goals in 343 games for club, 62 goals in 98 games for country.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's always downsides to every person. Everyone has their flaws, except for maybe
like
Federer.
Yeah, this is Federer's.
The out of shape thing. That's just one thing I've got written down as something worse.
Hang on, before we get there, can we talk about the out of shape thing? I think that the most unfortunate thing that has happened to Ronaldo is the fact that he shares the same name as Cristiano Ronaldo.
A little bit.
Cristiano Ronaldo being the most dedicated person to health has made Ronaldo getting fat make it seem like he became obese.
Yeah, but obviously as much of a legend as he is, the biggest problem is that haircut.
It's not. I've got a worse problem, which.
No, nothing could be worse.
We're gonna get proper heavy now after.
No. When you hear this, you might change your mind.
No, there's no way.
Whilst he was engaged, he spent £600 or euros or whatever for prostitutes. Whilst he was engaged, right? Which maybe you're thinking, okay, that's bad, but they were male.
Oh!
And I should clarify, he didn't know they were male.
He didn't know.
He didn't know they were male, and they like paid for them to leave and like paid for them to not say anything, and they said stuff. I think
Did not get his money's worth then if they said something.
Yeah, I'm gonna say allegedly for legal purposes, even though I don't think Ronaldo cares about me saying anything.
You'd be surprised.
In fact, I can almost guarantee he doesn't care. But I mean, even allegedly, that's quite a thing. But to bring him up again, 2003 poll was voted the most famous sports person and the third most famous person, which surprised me a bit. Huh?
It was 2-1.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't look at that. No.
Clearly not that famous then.
This was in 2000. This was in 2003. Probably Michael Jackson and.
Sure. Go on, man. What have you got to say? You're the only one who hasn't said anything yet.
He was before my time in a sense, but I still know. I've still seen like the videos of him. I still know the legacy that this man's left. He was probably the best out and out striker to exist.
Dixie Dean.
I don't think we'll ever see anyone.
Oh, mate, the skills with his head, incredible.
You've got Origi as well, don't forget. We mentioned before, the best ever.
Alright, at least I said an actual legend.
An Everton legend, that's like saying...
Hang on, did Dixie Dean ever win Everton the Champions League? Don't think so. Origi did.
Exist?
Well, the European Cup or whatever they had back then, I don't know.
Still didn't exist. It was the
1920s, mate. That's his fault.
That's his fault.
Yes, he's called
Dick. Yeah, sorry, go on back to the
You just say he's called Dick.
Yeah.
Seriously. That's the level.
Sorry, what did Ritson say?
Oh, you don't want to know.
Oh my god. Something tells me that I'm going to have to do the content ones today.
It's not that bad, but one. Where should we place him? I'm
putting him role model.
I was gonna say that role model. I don't think that it's the what about. It's the not what about. What if about him? I think if he goes on for a full career, he would undoubtedly have been an icon. But if you look at what his career actually was, it is a case of would he be there? And I also don't think again he has like that staying power. He's not like staying power in terms of iconic status. You know, you're not talking about R9 anymore.
I'm actually going to say legend.
And I'm going to agree because unlike Ronaldo and Messi, he won a World Cup. So, that's something.
He also play in the final.
Did he not?
I think he did.
Well, Ronaldo did play in the Euros.
He did play. Oh, no, that was a different one where they lost.
Oh, well, there you go.
He played in the one they lost.
I can't remember because I remember he fainted the night before or something.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, he's not playing, but then he ended up playing. I think they lost that one. It was against France. I might be completely wrong on that, but he did win it eventually. The next one.
Win it.
Yeah.
Win it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I couldn't really put him role model. I mean, he's not really been a role model off the pitch. I mean,
This is the downside of that tier being named that.
Yeah, this is your fault.
You've got people. We've genuinely got people in this tier list too good to put in role model and not good enough people to put in role model, despite how good they are. That's what we've done.
Well, listen, anyone could have made suggestions.
I did.
And I said I think we should have a tier called role model. I didn't say where we should put it.
Anyway,
I think a tier called role model was a disgraceful idea.
Well, you could have said that.
I wasn't meant to be part of the episode.
Well, you just took it. We're bickering. Let's move on. Okay, I say legend. Paddy, you say legend.
Yeah, I say legend.
So
I think he still is anyway.
I'll put him in legend.
So he goes in legend.
Yeah,
Despite the role model thing, I think he's still on. Anyway, I've left probably the two most interesting debates for last. That's Tyson Fury and Conor McGregor. I'll start with Tyson Fury.
Role model. Clear as day. He is a role model for what he did.
Overrated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, instantly I'm going to say I had him as a role model because I think he's almost a definition of a role model, like the way he's come back from adversity, fought back from mental health. Not only has he done it, he's talked openly about it, tried to help others with it. And his big purse against Deontay Wilder, first fight, he donated the entirety of it to charity, $7 million.
He's also a horrific person who's a massive homophobe.
Well, no, but the thing, these are things that he's done in his past. Like, okay, these are bad things, but it shows the person he was before and the person he is now, and because of the change he's shown in his personality. That's like role model material for me. Like, and you've got to think he was raised like by gypsies and that. He didn't have much of a chance in life to grow like culturally and socially. Like, he shouldn't be saying what he's saying regardless, but you've got to cut him a bit of slack because he's grew up in that kind of environment where it's rough and tumble. But if you look from where he was to where he is now, I think that's role model stuff.
I think what's really great about his comeback is that when he was severely overweight, it was like a few years ago, he called out Deontay Wilder on a video message saying he's coming for you, and then what do you know? He comes back, beats Wilder, but the judges are corrupt, so it's a draw, and then he knocks Wilder out, so the judges can't have any say. I mean, it's such a good, arc that he's went through. Such a good redemption arc, and the way he's grown as a person. I used to really not like Tyson Fury, but now I love him. He's great. What a guy!
The man went from looking like Henry VIII to becoming heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, a month ago he said that if he talked the way that Anthony Joshua did about Black Lives Matter, for him, he'd have been crucified. So he's clearly not grown as much as you're saying.
Well, I mean, that's not that crazy a statement, because Anthony Joshua was criticised for saying some kind of racist things against white people, in a sense. That's why he was criticised. So he's kind of saying, but if what he's saying is if a white person talking about Black Lives Matter is not going to be received as well as a black person.
No, it was about if he was talking about things in a context relating to him, like how Anthony Joshua was saying things in relation to Black Lives Matter. It's not him talking about Black Lives Matter, it's him talking about himself and his experiences. If he talked in the way that Anthony Joshua did, he'd get tons of criticism.
I don't think that's that crazy a thing to say. I mean, he's grown a lot. I mean, that's undoubtable. Where he was, and I didn't used to like him either because he was just overly arrogant and some of the stuff he was saying. I mean, he said some questionable things about homosexuals, Jewish people, transgenders, which
and
came out
women in general.
Yeah, which he came out and apologized for. And if he just stayed the same person, of course.
Also did steroids once.
Yeah,
but the difference between him and other people, like on this Lance Armstrong, who's an awful person, they haven't redeemed themselves in any way. They haven't like tried to come back from it. They haven't like tried to make better themselves as a person.
I think we should vote there.
All right.
To me, he's overrated.
I think role model.
I think role model.
I think role model.
Yeah, we finally got a role model.
Tyson Fury's in the role.
Right, Collins.
All right. Oh. All right. Just 1 second. I'm putting him in role model because this is a democracy after all. Who should I talk about? I'm going to talk about... I've got 2 left. I'm going to talk about Lewis Hamilton, probably the least interesting of my last 2. Lewis Hamilton, it could arguably be seen as the greatest F1 driver of all time. He's won the Drivers' World Championship 6 times. He holds the record for all-time career points, as well as having the most pole positions going into races as well, which is even more than Schumacher. He's also the first and only black driver in F1 history. So he broke barriers into the sport, and you know what? He succeeded in doing it by proving that black people should be in F1. Would have been easy for racists to go if Lewis Hamilton was rubbish. See, this is why a black man shouldn't be in the sport. But he's made anyone who's tried to use his color against him to shut up. To me, he's someone who is a role model. He's very outspoken towards veganism. He's very outspoken towards I know veganism was the weird first choice to go for, but he's very outspoken towards it. He's very outspoken towards the environment as well, while driving
that's
very petrol-heavy cars, which again is a bit weird, but you know, it's still an important thing to focus on.
If anything, the vegan stuff knocks him down a peg.
Oh, it's hilarious. The man tries to avoid torturing animals, and we should criticize him for it. Yes, to me, it's a similar case towards darts and snooker, but not as much. In that I've put him as a role model. F1 has its own channel on Sky Sports, but it's clearly not as popular as the biggest sport, as like one of the biggest sports in the world, despite the fact that obviously the races go worldwide and there are worldwide drivers. But to me, he's a role model.
He's also a huge outspoken of the Black Lives Matter. He's been a huge advocate of that. And also, here's another thing, right? So they did the first F1 race of the half season they're now having to do last week. And before the race, the drivers took a knee to show, their support and respect towards it. However, 6 drivers kept standing and refused to take the knee. And Hamilton has to do that and keep his head, not react, not say anything, just keep supporting the movement while, he could easily just like...
Yeah, why did they do that? Why did they not?
Because they're spoiled little brats, that's why. They're F1 drivers and they're spoiled little brats.
That's crazy. And why would you not do it?
F1 drivers are some of the... I want to swear, but I don't want to get more,
The 6 drivers that did it, are there any of them like recognizable? Like
Leclerc,
Leclerc and Verstappen, especially. The two young guns who are going to be world champions in the future refused to take a knee. And a lot of people are saying it's due to the threats of sponsorships and stuff, but who cares if the sponsorships are going to threaten to take away those deals? Then you shouldn't want to be sponsored by them because they're bad.
Exactly. What's more important, sponsorships? What sponsorships are this incredibly important? Like
completely disrespected Hamilton, but Hamilton took it on the chin. He hasn't been really outspoken about it. He's just kept speaking about the Black Lives Matter in a very positive and humble and respectful way. And you have to hand it to him because it would be so easy in his position to, just punch one of them or all of them, to be honest. It'd be so easy to, because I'd want to punch him. I think it's so disrespectful what they do.
It is.
But that's away from the point, but it really does anger me that happened.
I'd like to know more of their reasons why they did it first, but that's poor.
Yeah, it is poor. But Hamilton has all those records that Collins spoke about just before, and by the end of his career, he could have all the records, all the main records. He's already got most poles. I think he's going to have most race wins, and he could equal most titles with Schumacher.
Most points in a season as well. Most points in a season, 413.
Yeah. However, the point system did used to be different, but it doesn't matter. It's still a great record nonetheless. He was, until Vettel came along, the youngest person to ever win an F1 title, and he did it in the most spectacular fashion. Last corner of the last race, overtaking another driver to win the title by a point. That is unbelievable. The Ferrari fans were already celebrating. It was hilarious.
that was the Brazilian one, wasn't it? And they'd already told him he'd won.
Yeah.
They'd already told him he'd won, and then they had to go, sorry.
At that moment,
Hamilton won it on the last corner.
And Vettel, he overtook Vettel, didn't he?
Yeah. Is that there was an iconic commentary line of, is that Glock? And Hamilton passes him.
Yeah.
Wins the title. Oh, in the wet. Oh, it was such a dramatic race because it went from dry to wet and all kinds of different tactical decisions. I have to put him as a legend. I think he's more than a role model. He's the greatest driver in F1 history. You could probably say that now already, but there's a lot of people who hate him online who would disagree, but screw them. And I think that although I do get the point about the whole darts and snooker comparison of F1 is a physically challenging sport. I mean,
that's not right. You are still going into. You're still taking my point in the wrong way. I'm not judging these sports in terms of
popularity,
in terms of what it takes to do them.
I'm
judging them on popularity.
Yeah, but I think F1's still quite popular. Still popular.
I said it's more popular.
Yeah.
Gets him up. That's why he's not decent. It's role model.
Yeah.
It's just it's after all, there's Sky Sports F1. There'll never be a Sky Sports darts manga.
I mean, you don't know that. Honestly, the way it's going.
I do know that. I do know that.
I will actually note there usually is Sky Sports darts when the Worlds come in, so I'll take your apology now.
God, it's a flipping opener.
They literally turn it into Sky Sports darts.
Right. Okay.
That's put me off my subscription.
Harry, what do you think?
I'm also going to agree with Legend. I mean, we haven't mentioned his charity work. 500,000 donated to the Australian bushfires.
Of course.
Don't get me wrong. I think he's like a billionaire already. I think it's hard to criticize someone for not doing enough charity work when they do some, but I think he could even be doing more. But that's irrelevant, really. You can't really criticize someone for that much. I'm going to say Legend. I think his status is probably one of the greatest of all time in F1. I think if you're thinking icon, I'm thinking more the lines of Schumacher or Ayrton Senna. But
I think in 5 years' time.
Yeah, I think with a little bit more longevity, he's not a million miles away from the icon.
If he gets those last couple of records, then
he's on his way to icon for sure.
I'm putting him as a role model.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, don't really want to say more about that, really.
Well, I guess role model wins.
Why? I know why. What's your reasoning? We've all explained our reasoning. What's yours?
There's nothing to it. I just don't think. It's weird to say. I still see Michael Schumacher as the top dog. I know he's beaten the records and that, but I still see it like that.
Yeah, but that's why he's not icon.
I think that's nostalgia, to be honest.
But that's why he's not icon, though. Surely you would say
true.
He's
true.
Yeah, but you could say that about Brazilian Ronaldo as well. That's nostalgia.
But he's legend. He's in Legend.
Yeah, he's a legend, exactly. I haven't put him. But,
Alright, I'll put him in role model.
And
you know what? He's the first black F1 driver. We've got the Black Lives Matter, and you're doing this to him.
Heartless.
Heartless.
I feel
completely heartless, you people. Heartless bunch of racists.
Could be worse. Did you see what happened in NASCAR? Just as a brief going off.
No, that's
where they found what they thought was a noose in the only black driver's garage, and so they did the massive thing of support, and it's beautiful and it's great that they did that, and it turned out it was just something they used to hold the carriage doors open, and they just didn't realize that the only black driver was going to get that one.
Oh no. Anyway, who's next?
It's meant to be me, but I don't really want to. I want to wait till the end if that's okay with you
Well,
guys.
no, that's not okay.
Why?
Because I want to go last.
Because we'd all want to go last, but this is the order.
Yeah, but this is my list.
Valid point. Take your pick, or I'll start saying it.
Written, go first.
No, that's not what I said.
Right, fine. I'll go next. Even though we have an order, but well, I'm going with Rafael Nadal. I started with tennis, and I'm going to end with tennis. Nadal is probably the second best. No, sorry, he's the third best player of all time now. He's a Mr. Clay of tennis. He's won 12 Roland Garros titles, countless other clay court titles. I think he's won 92% of his matches on clay courts, which is the highest surface winning percentage ever. I mean,
he also has the longest winning streak on any surface, doesn't he?
He does. I think it's like, is it like 80 matches or something stupid like that?
I can't remember. Neil didn't go into that much detail.
Okay, well.
What a clay
anyways, he was the guy who dethroned Federer from world number one after that classic 2008 Wimbledon final, which is widely seen as maybe the greatest match of all time. However, I think he's overrated.
Wait.
Wow, I was not expecting that.
Oh my word.
Wait, generally bottom tier?
I'm putting Rafa Nadal in the bottom tier of this list.
You're putting Rafael Nadal with Lance Armstrong.
Oh my god.
And Ninja. Ninja is the same level athlete as Nadal.
No.
You heard it here first, lads. You heard it here first.
We're doing what we do all the time and saying like just because they're in the same tier, they're the same.
I'm joking.
Right. Okay. Rafa Nadal is only close to the Grand Slam count of Federer because of clay. And I know that Federer's got grass, but I mean, it's ridiculous how much this guy relies on clay. Do you know Andy Murray has a better winning percentage than Nadal on hard and grass courts? I know it is. I definitely know on grass courts it is, and then hard courts I think they're very similar. Andy Murray has 3 Grand Slams, and it is considered like nowhere near them. Although he was an important part of that Big Four era. It was clear he was the 4th best, especially with all the media pressure put on him. That really didn't help him get over the line in those Grand Slams. Anyway, his hard court and grass court win percentage are both 77, which out of the big 3 are 2 of the 3 lowest surface winning percentages. He's, the drop off between Federer, Djokovic, and then him on those 2 court surfaces is significant. There's 4% and then 10% for grass, 6% and 7% for hard court. Now, while he does dominate clay completely, that is great. But I think tennis, you got to be a bit of an all-rounder, and I feel he's not that. He relies so heavily on clay. Most of his titles are on clay. I think where was it? There was a stat with how many 51% of his titles have came from clay, I think, which is so much. Federer is clearly the best of all time because of the way he's so elegant, everything that goes with it, the way he's, changed the sport of how it's played. He went from different eras. Nadal is, it's kind of a boring play style he has. He sits at the back of the court, he hits ridiculous topspin, and that's about it, And then people aren't used to his spin, so they falter on shots more. And the only reason he eclipsed Federer is play styles, not because he's a better player or talented. It's because Federer has a one-handed backhand, and a one-handed backhand's weakness is high balls. Nadal's huge topspin, more than anyone in history, means the ball bounces higher, meaning all he had to do to beat Federer on any surface bar grass, because it bounced lower, was just hit to the backhand and wait for the error. And it wasn't until 2017, when Federer had that time off to improve his backhand, and then Federer actually dominated the series since then. But before that, Nadal was, comfortably beating Federer most of the time because of that play style difference. Now then he comes against Djokovic, who has a two-handed backhand, and Djokovic for the last decade has kind of wiped the floor with him on most occasions. And that's why I think he's overrated. He's the third best of all time. He's not even second. And if it wasn't for clay, which was the least natural tennis surface, I think it was the last one to come into play, I think. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, he relies on that so much. If it wasn't for that, he'd be near Andy Murray's level of titles. So that's why I'd put him as overrated.
Are you finished?
I am.
He still won 7 Grand Slams even without the clay.
I do understand that, yes, but
he's won more than John McEnroe, Boris Becker, Andy Murray. That's not even putting the French Open in it.
Yeah, no.
So to say that he's primarily a clay player, I can see what you mean. He's won so many on him.
12.
But, yeah, he's won 12, but he's still won 7 Grand Slams.
No, I know. Here's the thing. I don't think that Nadal's a bad player. I said he's the third best player of all time for a reason.
Yeah, but call him overrated, I think, is quite a bit far.
Yeah, no one's saying Nadal's better than Federer.
No, I know. I know, but I think he's not on the same. I think he is just a slight level below. I think he relies so heavily on clay. And you look at the other two, in terms of the Grand Slams they've won. Now, Federer's won 8 Wimbledons, and Djokovic, that's his most of any Grand Slam. I think Djokovic has won 7 Australian Opens. Now, they both have a much less percentage for their most Grand Slams in terms of counting for the overall amount of Grand Slams that they have, whereas Nadal's is 12 out of 19, which is nearly 2/3 of his Grand Slams have came from Roland Garros, which many do see as the least, the smallest of the Grand Slams. Due to prize money, the history, and the stadiums too, and the crowds there as well. The French crowds are typically quite rude. And no, I'm not. That's not that. No, I'm not. That's just how it is. They were even really rude to Nadal when he first won the title.
Okay. I am.
Anyway.
No, I on a sec. Would you say then that Nadal has utilised the clay to his effect? Because you look, Federer's won 1 French Open, Djokovic has won 1 French Open, Pete Sampras, the next best, has won no French Opens.
No, I get that, but the thing is, his play style is so clay based. Now he's done well to win Grand Slams outside of clay because of his style. Like the heavy topspin for clay is great because the ball bounces really high and it makes it difficult for opponents. But also, people then point to his injuries. Well, if it wasn't for his injuries, he would have won so many more Grand. Well, it's because of the build and the way he plays that he got those injuries. The extra muscle on his legs and upper body is why his knees gave out and why he had so many of those little injuries that forced him to either retire in the latter stages of Grand Slams or miss them altogether. So that's what I think he is overrated. I think he's the third best, which is great, but I think Djokovic is definitely better, even though he's not won as many Grand Slams. And Federer, he is, the greatest of all time, at least for now. And he probably, even if Djokovic beats his records, I think people are still going to see Federer as the best anyway because of just the way he was as a sportsman anyway. I just don't think Nadal has that aura about him. I think he seems like a nice guy and everything, and he does charity work too and all the rest of it, but I think personally he's overrated. It's a bit like it's a little like David Beckham, but he's better at tennis than David Beckham was football.
Right.
Okay. Let's get to the voting because I think Richard has said all we can about it.
Yeah.
I haven't said one thing about this.
Role models.
Go on. Let Paddy say something.
It would be offensive for me to have a better say than written on this. He watches so much more tennis than me, knows more than me, and I get the overrated argument. It is similar to my David Beckham arguments. However, I would say that David Beckham is much more overrated.
Yeah.
Because you're saying third best of all time. That's still unbelievable.
That's what I was saying, though. I was like, it's a bit like that, but obviously Nadal's better at tennis than David Beckham ever was at football.
I get the clay argument, but one less Grand Slam than Federer, but I get the clay argument, to be fair. 85 career titles, 120 million prize money.
Yeah.
He has the Rafael Nadal Foundation, which helps young children in poor countries, and he donated £1 million after the floods in Mallorca in 2018.
Yeah.
So, to me, I just couldn't see his face next to those three people and overrated. That would feel wrong to me.
I get that.
I know you shouldn't compare people in the same tiers in a sense, but that feels harsh to me. I get what you're saying with the overrated thing, but I don't think it's as simple as he's overrated, therefore he goes into like.
The thing is, Paddy, you also voted for all three of those people to be in the overrated tier. That's not just what we came up as a group. That's what you voted as overrated. So I think it's completely fair to say that because
he
those
voted
are overrated. You can't say Nadal.
I also just want to say that I did the Nadal thing as overrated, maybe because it's slightly controversial. Also, I've never really liked Nadal since I was a kid because of the noises he makes, the whole pulling his shorts out of his arse thing, the vest tops, the stupid routine before every serve where he taps his nose and puts his hair behind his ears and does all that and then pulls the shorts. You know, it really, I don't know, as a kid, like I was watching Federer in complete awe of how classy he was and how fun he was to play. And then Nadal's there and I'm just, I don't know. It just annoyed me. I think I've never really been able to like give Nadal the true credit that he deserves. Not that my credit means anything to him, but
okay.
That's why I've put him.
I think we should vote role model for me.
Yeah, role model.
Role model for me as well.
It's fine.
Right, Paddy.
Well, my final one is Mr. Conor McGregor. Now, I think when I put this on the list, you're probably thinking I was going to put him quite high.
I thought you were going to say overrated.
Yeah, I thought he was overrated.
No, not overrated. He's definitely not overrated in terms of an athlete. But at the same time, you could never ever call him a role model. I mean, if you look at what he's done in the UFC octagon and what he's done for the sport, it's some of the best you'll see on this list. But also to balance that, some of the worst off the field behaviour on this list.
Man's the personification of arrogance. Let's be honest.
I mean, that's not really like a thing. Like
the man's the personification of a scumbag.
Every fight is arrogant. Like that's have to be. Like arrogance isn't always a bad thing. It's like, especially you have to be arrogant as a fighter.
Yeah, you have to believe you're gonna win.
Like you have to believe you're gonna win, but you don't have to like literally grab someone's championship from them.
Mate, that's entertainment. Like he wouldn't be the star he was. He's built by doing stuff like that. He's built the UFC into, well, he hasn't built it into what it is, but he's the levels he's elevated that company because of stuff like that. It's completely worth it.
He also injured fighters throwing a barricade into a bus window.
Yeah, that's the bad stuff. That's where it gets grotty.
He also punched an old man.
Yeah, that's the bad stuff as well. That's where it gets.
He's also incredibly overrated as a fighter. I mean,
that's.
We've lost to Nate Diaz.
He's lost all his fights via submission.
You can't just say overrated because he lost to Nate Diaz. I mean, that's not an argument.
I can also say because there were people who genuinely thought he was on the level of Khabib, and then what happened?
I don't think the people who are real UFC fans ever thought he was on the level of Khabib. I think casuals thought he was.
But the thing is, icons are the people that casuals know, and he's incredibly overrated.
I'm not saying he's an icon. I'm not saying he's an icon.
Yeah, no. The thing is, these are all sporting icons in their circle. Conor McGregor is a UFC icon because people know him from it, and he will go down as one of the most popular that's WWE fighters.
He probably will. He probably will.
No, but his ability in the ring is unbelievable. He's
incredibly overspoken.
He lost all of his fights via submission, which shows his defense work isn't great.
He
Really?
his also most legendary.
It's 2
moment
fights. You
is
say
the
all of his
Jose
fights.
Aldo
Four.
knockout.
It's 4 fights.
Yeah, but that's the amateur. That's in the amateurs. Everyone loses in the amateurs, like, because that's when you're learning. In the
No, he
UFC,
didn't.
he's lost 2.
John Jones
Right?
didn't.
And he lost both of them by submission.
Yeah, okay. But just because he's not the complete martial artist doesn't mean he's like overrated or anything.
Signed on. Are we saying that he's overrated because he lost like 2 fights?
Could be.
No.
Like,
I'm saying he's overrated because his striking ability, while incredibly well done, can't make up for the fact that his clinching groundwork isn't up to scratch for which is why he lost his 2 previous fights. He's also, come on, let's face it, his last fight was against Cowboy.
But we're not
But
talking
that was
about that. Like, it's not that his groundwork's not up to scratch. His groundwork is very good. His head coach John Kavanagh is his first Irish Jiu-Jitsu champion. His Jiu-Jitsu is good, and he trains with Dylan Dennis. He lost the Nate Diaz fight because he gassed out and got hit
at a higher weight as well.
and did a desperate attempt to go to the ground, and that's why he lost that one. And Nate Diaz's jiu-jitsu is like some of the best in the UFC, so it was just a bad decision when he was tired as hell and he got hit badly. And Khabib is, the best wrestler in UFC history. Like, it's no shame like getting beat by him on the ground. But he beat Chad Mendes to win his first interim title, and Chad Mendes is an unbelievable wrestler. Like, his wrestling is fine. Like, it's nowhere near as good as his striking. His striking is his main thing. I mean, he put up a fight against maybe one of the best boxers of all time. That's how good his striking is.
Yeah. All right. We might as well vote. Personally, me and mine are both overrated.
Have people said about like how he made UFC as big as it is today? Like,
Yeah,
not as big as it is.
Yeah, but he also said that
it's a big part because of McGregor.
Conor McGregor's played a massive part.
He's a part, but come on.
No, he's played a massive
big part.
All right.
Without Conor McGregor, the popularity would be nowhere near what it is.
Yeah, because I was just away for 2 minutes, so I'm not sure if I did
just a bit of a bad person as well.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
No, the for me, without all the sort of, the Dublin, the assault one on the man in the pub in Dublin, that's the worst one in a sense, because this is
In a sense.
Well, I mean, the bus attack was pretty bad, man.
Yeah, but he assaulted an old man. At least with, you can say, the bus, they were all young men. He could have literally killed him if he tried.
Yeah, but
that was an untrained person who he just punched because he didn't like him. He didn't show respect.
Yeah, he denied to have a drink of his whiskey or something like that. And just completely out of order. The robbery thing, I don't think it's as bad as it's made out. He obviously shouldn't have done it, but it's like, if someone comes up to you and starts like waving a camera in your face and that, I imagine that can be quite annoying. And he took the phone, smashed it on the ground. It is what it is. He's done a lot. That's not the worst.
Yeah. So what's your vote?
I'm gonna say decent, because I don't think he's overrated, because he's a brilliant athlete, a brilliant entertainer, and he's built, like, he's done so much for that UFC sport. But you've got to have him lower than role model because of what he does off there.
I'd agree with decent. To be fair, I think overrated is harsh.
Yeah.
So, right. If we ever do a part 2 of this, role model is getting taken out.
Yeah,
immediately. But yeah, Collins.
No, I'm going last.
No, you are not.
No, I'm going last.
Oh, bloody hell.
Collins, just go next.
Fine. For my last one, I have a man who had one of the biggest rises in sporting history, one of the biggest falls in sport history, but also got a nice little rise at the end as an epilogue. Tiger Woods, the man who put golf on the map, really. When this guy came in, they had to change everything about the sport because he was just that good. Par fives he could do in 2 shots or 3 shots easily. So they had to stretch them out. Par fours he could par fours too easy for him, stretched them out. Everything had to be made more difficult for him, so it was a fair playing field. He's in that category of Michael Jordan, Roger Federer, Ronnie O'Sullivan, and Phil Power Taylor. What a category! But as the best of his sport, 82 wins on the PGA Tour, 15 majors, the second highest in golf history. He spent 683 weeks at #1 in the world and is the youngest golfer to ever win a career Grand Slam. And then he got injured, and then he got addicted to pills, and then he had a few affairs, and then he became a bit rubbish.
And then he got chased out of his own house with
But
a golf club by
he
his wife.
did. What did he win? The Masters or something like in the last
Yeah.
couple of
he
years or
won-
whatever.
he won last couple
in
of years.
2018. He would win another major.
2019.
It was 20. Oh, it was the end of 2018.
It was 2019 Masters.
Well, all right then. Neil has it written down as the end of 2018.
Nope.
But yeah.
That's fine.
So with the way it is, I'm personally of the opinion that it's the simple fact that you can't say he's a role model. This shouldn't be the name of the tier, so I'm gonna put him in legend.
I would
We
agree.
need to finish up. Please just say what.
I would agree with legend as well. Maybe if it wasn't for the controversial stuff, he might go in icon. But again, golf as a sport compared to like basketball, tennis, football, boxing, I think that does need to be taken into account. And yeah, I think I think legend. I mean, what you said there about how many weeks at world #1?
683. And also, I don't think an affair is enough to knock you off icon status. It's the fact that he was rubbish for 7 years.
He got DUI as well.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah.
Yeah.
How bad his back injury was.
Yeah.
That's quite sad. In the fact that it became an addiction, which he fought back from. So if anything, actually, you can put him Tyson Fury if you believe that.
Yeah, you know what? It was a very nice art for him to come back, and when I was very happy, and my dad, who loves golf, was bloody in shock. He loved it.
Had one of the biggest fall from graces that didn't involve steroids, really. Then came back to win the Masters.
Yeah,
but I'd probably put. If it wasn't for him, golf would be nowhere near where it was. So he is probably a legend.
Mm-hmm.
I would have said icon because of the most PGA Tour wins, second in major championships, 110 professional wins, probably the greatest golfer of all time. So you think an icon? He's so famous as well. He's like the first sports billionaire or something like that. I might be wrong. I might be wrong with that, but something like that.
Well, the golf games are named Tiger Woods PGA Tour.
Yeah, exactly. He is super iconic, but because of the controversy and the infidelity and the DUI, as you said, and just the way just the fall from grace, I just have to knock him down a peg to legend.
Right, legend. So he's going legend.
Yeah, and
right.
Go on, Mangan. You waited all time for this. You really need to be quick though, because this is coming up to 3 hours.
I am literally going as fast as I can. So Pele. Santos' career scored 643 goals in 656 appearances. His best season was 66 goals, 46 games in 1958. Internationally, he's got 77 goals in 92 games. He says that he scored 1,283 goals in 1,363 games.
Reliable source.
He'd count his 10 goals he scored against the under 11s.
Yeah. 526 of them came in unofficial friendlies and tour games when he was part of the Coast Guard in Brazil. He also failed to mention that he'd scored 8 goals against Botafogo, who aren't the Brazilian Giants, but are in fact a Sao Paulo 4th Division team for a friendly. He was outperformed in every single World Cup he was part of. He never won the Golden Boot.
But it's incredibly hard to win a Golden Boot.
He scored 6 in 58, and that was the highest he would get. Juice Fontaine scored 13. In 1962 World Cup, Brazil won. He only played in one game and got injured, but it's well known that he's won 3 World Cups from it. What else?
This seems quite negative. What are you putting him in?
I don't know. That's why I wanted to put it as last. I wanted to put the evidence to you guys.
This seems overly negative for a clearly iconic player.
The guy's the most famous footballer in the world, man.
Like, the 3 World Cup wins the most anyone's ever won. The only person to win 3 World Cups.
And it still counts.
1999 was voted Player of the Century. 77 national goals in 92 games, 650 and 694. Unbelievable stats, like so far ahead of his era. Iconic still to this day. He's like, as you said, like probably the most famous footballer of all time.
But is he the best?
But that's not kind of the argument though for iconic.
Yeah, we're not arguing about that.
And
well, a lot of people like to say about his teammates during those World Cups who didn't get the credit that they deserve for having.
So I've got them here. I've got Garantia, inspire Brazil's 62 win. Coutinho was
sold by Liverpool.
One of
Liverpool signed him when he was 70.
Was one of his Pele's partners at Santos. Nilton Santos, who was one of the best ever left backs to grace the game. Gerson, who was seen by many as Pele's Xavi, and Pele never gave him the credit for it.
It's not Pele's job to give him the credit, though. It's the
that's the thing. That's the thing. Pele himself gave like 100 best players, and hardly mentioned any of them who.
It was 100 best alive. They were about current players.
No, they were himself. But yeah.
The thing is, though, you're looking at all those players, and he's outshone all of them. That shows how good he was. Like, and you can't think like, is he the best of all time? Like, if you compare him to Messi, it's incomparable. The eras are so different. You've got to think about how good he was in relation to that era.
You also have to think about where he played.
What do you mean?
I mean, he played at Santos and New York Cosmos. That was his club career.
But you don't know it. It's not the same.
Brazil. This was also the time period where all the best Brazilian players are playing in Brazil as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like Brazil was probably the Premier League back then. Like,
yeah. So all those players that you're mentioning that were part of his team and never got the credit were playing against them in.
Because they weren't playing in Europe. Like, he didn't have transfers like the same.
You are actually right though. He didn't actually mention his Xavi in the FIFA 100. I apologize about that. He did mention himself, and that says what Pele is. He's a man who's made a brand about being the best player in the world, and make sure that's towards it through and through. It's still a deserved brand though, especially for the time when he was making it. And to say he's not an icon or at least legend is foolish.
He's got to be an icon for me.
Yeah, Ritson.
Yeah, what you said.
Mangan, after all that, what's your vote?
I'm staying out of it. You guys want to go icon? It's on you.
There we go. All right, then. It's on us. We're not gonna get. We're not gonna.
I honestly didn't know where to put him.
I'm not a fan of us having 3 footballers in icon, but okay, fair enough. I mean,
I'm gonna put it as legend.
Yeah. You know what? Fair enough. I'll knock Messi down.
No.
You said it. That's your own fault.
It's not my own fault.
Well, no, because I changed my vote to legend.
No, we're not having this.
Yeah. So we should probably see itself off. This has been a long episode this week, hasn't it?
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. Guys, this has been great. Any last words before we go?
Yeah, fun episode, long, but definitely the most fun I've had so far. Glad that Neil had to step out for this one.
Just a quick reminder, we have Twitter and Instagram pages at the Tier List Podcast. You can follow us and subscribe to any of the podcast channels that we have on the YouTube page. But from all of us, we'll say see you later. This is the Tier List, and in a bit.
Bye.
See ya.